This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. The sun is about to rise here in the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park. I'm told it's about 14 degrees Celsius, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe it to be slightly colder than that, but it's certainly warmer than it was yesterday. My name is James Henry, and on camera today we have got Senzo Mkiza with his 3 fingers. He only has 3 fingers. Poor fellow. Over there we have some impala. We had some impala. There they are. Can you see them, Senzo? Yes, good, excellent. Please do talk to us over the course of the next 3 hours using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise you can use the chat stream on YouTube. We'd love to have any questions or comments that you have. My plan this morning is, other than staying warm, is to probably head into the central parts of Juma and see if we can find where the dear leopardess Tandi has gone. That's been my general modus operandi. Of course, she's been having a rather tough evening, I imagine, under the light of the full moon, which is over there. Senzo, it's that big cheese-like thing sitting in the sky. That, of course, makes it rather difficult for the cats at night, because it was very bright out here indeed. It's a lovely, still morning. It was very blustery yesterday afternoon. It was quite pleasant this morning, though the wind has died. I thought it would be a bit of a cold front coming through, and it was a bit cloudy when we got up. But it's cleared up nicely, it's perfectly still, and hopefully it will warm up nicely as the drive progresses. Sebastian Rombi and Stivovo will be out on foot fairly soon, and in fact I can see them wandering out just behind me. And then Taylor McCurdy, and who's filming her today? We only have 3 cameras. Fergus will be filming Taylor today. Okay, on we go. In the final control room, we must not forget, of course, the final control does contain a whole lot of extremely important people. We've got Alex, the Russian, on tech. We've got Luke, who's unfortunately departing these shores. Well, he's decided he was going to do a bit more surfing. He's heading out on Tuesday. He's doing the directing. On the second director's chair, reading all your comments, I think is Alicia. Is it Gemma? Not Alicia. Oh, it's Gemma. Ah, Jenna this morning. And there was something else I needed to tell you. Oh yes, Luke says that he's going to wait for the surfing version of Safari Live before he returns. There is the impala. I'm going to have one last look at him before handing you over to Stivovo and his feet.
Arr! It is indeed a full moon, ladies and gentlemen, sometime last night. Good morning, good morning. And a beautiful dawn awaits us. My name is Steve Falkovich, joined on camera by Sebastian Rombi. We are out on foot. What we will find, we do not know. We're going to go that way, I think. Obi, should we go that way? Yeah, we'll go that way. See if we can pick up on any tracks. That's what we do in the morning. Look for some tracks and signs in the African wilderness. And then from there, we should try to find an animal. It's been a beautiful morning already so far. And we're out on foot, so get to stretch the legs. Brought a couple snacks along there to keep us going, so we don't have to behave like a baboon this morning. We've got our own food, little pockets of them. Probably one of the best inventions humans ever got was the ability to carry water like this, which means we can go as far as we want to and before turning back, and then pockets to keep our fruit inside. There we go. Very good. Very good. Well, don't forget to send your questions and comments through #SafariLive or follow us on the YouTube stream. Let us know what you'd like to see. First 3 people to send through a comment to me about what they'd like to see, well, we'll try and focus the walk on that. How's that sound? Ready, steady, go. Thanks very much. And, it's actually a lot warmer today than it was yesterday. You can tell I'm already 1 glove down. one jacket down and a beanie on the head. So definitely not warmer this morning. But there's a warm front. We had that wind yesterday afternoon, brought in some hot air. There's a cold front down in the Cape, so I reckon in a day or two, it's going to be very cold again. Indeed. Dory, yes, ticks are definitely far less of a problem in winter. Doesn't mean they don't exist, but they're far less of a problem. They kind of have a life cycle that sort of flows with moisture, and obviously also with the hosts. So you could still find ticks around, but they don't really have. We don't also have the grass material to walk through that it gets stuck on. But if we had buffalo coming through here, we would definitely have ticks. Definitely. We don't have a lot of buffalo moving through, but I've had ticks all year round in some places. But it's not as bad now. There's not as many hatchings and babies being born. Kind of like a wet and flow cycle. Kind of like the mosquito. Kind of like that. But you will still find ticks in winter times if you've got a high number of specifically buffalo around. Buffalo are just huge carriers of ticks. When I worked up in the northern Kruger in Makuleki, I was constantly just scratching. Okay, well, it's not just myself and Mr. James Hendry out this morning. We've also got Taylor McCurdy. Let's go say good morning.
Good morning, everybody, and well, we're here eventually. My name is, of course, Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Ferg. And I don't know what we're going to go and look for, but I think it will be exciting either way. All I know is that I am going down that way to the south. Now, I think James is also headed in that direction. Obviously, if you were watching earlier with our wonderful tests we did a bit earlier, Bushwalk team I'm just waving to. Then we did have a leopard, but it seems to be quite skittish. So I don't know if James is following up on that one. There's James. I see a car. Well, the other thing to do is we can also go and see where Tundi crossed in, because I'm almost 100% certain she would have come back this way. So if James is there, we'll carry on going down this way and just head to the boundary. I think we might drive on Gowrie Main and just have a quick scratch around and see if we can't see any footprints, and then hopefully that will point us in the right direction, and we'll be able to find some tracks. Right, we just saw James. Now he's sitting there quietly. I wonder what he's staring at.
I am just sitting here. The more you can sit on a morning like this, the warmer you can get before the sun comes up. There is a giraffe. I'm sure you recognized the animal there. It's not difficult to identify. You know it's a giraffe, of course, by its color. See that, Senzo? Yeah. Can be confused with a leopard. Similar color, different shaped spots, though. This is a male giraffe, of course. He's standing in a very statuesque fashion, almost as if he either doesn't want to be seen or he is posing. Sort of asking, do I look all right for TV? An oxpecker, an early rising oxpecker there. Getting some delicious morning ticks for breakfast. How lovely. Imagine you had that to look forward to. You know, come 9 o'clock this morning, Taylor will be talking about what we're going to get for breakfast. And, well, I can't imagine she'd be particularly pleased if it was going to be ticks. Giraffe Girl, you say, woohoo, what a way to start. Well, Giraffe Girl, yes, what a way to start with giraffe. Although it's a second sighting. This is a rebellious giraffe. You can see he's pierced his ears. But he's not very young. So he's one of these giraffes who's obviously grown up in the 80s. Well, the human equivalent of the giraffe equivalent of the 80s. And he's now decided that he doesn't want to wear his earring anymore. But, of course, it's the hole in his ear remains. He's just allowing that oxpecker to get in there, in amongst the wax. And as Luke says, he is plagued by the decisions of his youth. Hopefully he doesn't have any tattoos he regrets. Like the misspelt name of his teenage love or something. Okay, we're going to carry on from here. I believe that Stephen is doing some mining.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, James. We have found a hole in the ground, which is potentially for a bushveld gerbil or some kind of rodent like that. And as you know, if you need a little home, the insulation under the ground is far superior than on top of the ground. If any of you have been watching our little segments with the FLIR thermal camera, you'll notice how cold the ground is. We were actually having a look at it this morning, and the ground surface itself was looking at about an average of about 7 degrees. And that's very cold if you're an animal trying to maintain a temperature between 20 odd and 30 odd. Very cold. But under the ground, because it's under there, the insulation, the sun has warmed the ground all day long. It stays at a very sort of moderate range. It doesn't fluctuate. It stays at a very constant sort of degree, where outside it can change quite rapidly. Very interesting in the deserts, actually. The ground surface area in the middle of the day right here can be extremely hot, but just a couple centimeters above. For example, if an organism sits on the grass layer here that's an inch above the top, it can drop a number of degrees in temperature. And so radiation from the ground, very, very interesting. And there are many, many species that evolved to live in the ground underneath because of the balanced or the sort of the constant temperature provides. And also it's hard for things to come and find you and eat you. And again, talking about the ecological role of fire, as soon as there's fire out here, lots of animals just underground and they're gone, hidden from the flames, and the heat that burns over the surface will not affect them in any way. There's many reasons for holes. Barbara, I've never been asked that question before or thought that question before. All I know is bushwalk, you need snacks. It's quite imperative, especially long bushwalks. You can ask Steph next time he does bushwalks. Steph, have you ever done a long bushwalk without snacks? And I'm sure he'll say no, because you need snacks such to just keep the body going. But there's never been a list of things you shouldn't take. Obviously, we're not going to be feeding the animals. So Steph is listening. He said no, never done without snacks. So I think, you know, nuts are great. Bars, you know, energy bars, fruit is really, really good. Things that are small and compact, dried meat is always a popular one. Things that are easy to carry. You don't want too much packaging. But the animals don't come and fight us for it, not yet anyway. Maybe one day they will. But ideally, whatever you bring out here, you need to take back with you. Even the peels, the seeds, whatever you bring out here needs to go back, because this leaves nothing, take nothing but photographs and leave nothing but footprints.
Now, I'm a culprit, however, of picking the odd flower and taking the odd feather, I must admit. But I don't think that's doing too much harm. I mean, I only take them in small quantities for my feather collection. Also, my feather collection is now spread out in my entire room. It looks like a variety of birds have died, and they have at least been plucked. And that is because my book that I used to keep them in has sprung a leak, and the little envelope thing, which was great, and one of the reasons why I bought the notebook, has decided to split. And obviously, me carrying it in, the feathers are now just all over my room. So at some point today, I'm going to have to clean that up, because this housekeeping is not going to be impressed with me. I tried to pick up as many as I could, but there was still a couple that got away. So we're on Weaver's Nest, and we're approaching the boundary, and I thought, like I said, we're sticking to our guns here. We're going to go all the way down, we're going to jump onto Gowrie Main, and we're going to drive towards Twin Dams, because if any of these cats... Sorry, Ferg. There is an orange-breasted bushshrike over there, and I've been looking for this bird for, I cannot tell you. I'm going to make those. No, come back. Come back, birdie. Come back, orange-breasted bushshrike. Oh, there's two of them, I think. I think there's two there. What does an orange-breasted bushshrike call sound like again? Oh. That's my attempt at a bush. Ah, yeah. Come back. I'm so excited because I feel like today is my day. Because literally, we got a glimpse of it. Well done, Ferg. Let me go forward. I think it's just actually jumped down over here. I've seen it fly, if it's that one. But on this shrub, just over here. So we're having some issues with the camera. There it goes. There it flies off into that bush over there. There it jumps. Look, look, look. Hello, beautiful bird. It's got a little caterpillar too. It's got a kill. Maybe an inchworm though. Oh, now you can see a lot more sort of finer than a grey-headed bushshrike. It doesn't have that big massive beak to it, but you can see the clear orange breast. Also got a grey head, so it can be quite confusing. But overall, the grey-headed bushshrike, you've still got it. The grey-headed bushshrike is so much more robust. I cannot tell you how chuffed I am. And it's just jumped up to the right. Oh, there it still is. Oh, man. And the final countdown before I go on holiday, we managed to finally put this bird on screen. I literally think for the last 6.5 weeks, this is the only bird I've been trying to show you. This and, oh, there we go. Yes, come and sit out in the open so we can get nice pictures of you. And the black-collared barbet, which I don't think we've seen just yet. But that is fantastic. Remember, there we go, off it goes. That was an awesome sighting, however, of an orange-breasted bushshrike. Talara, yes, it totally matches the leaves. It's very pretty. Birding at this time of the year is great. That was cool. That's not the best orange-breasted bushshrike sighting I had. I think I had one once, and it was live with you, all of you, where we had a pair of them, and they were bouncing quite close to the car. Does anyone remember that? That was a long time ago. That must be about early January last year, something like that. I think so. I think that's when it was about. So anyways, that was very nice to see. I'm super stoked about that I finally got to have a view, because they've been taunting me. They've been just all day around camp. But do you think I've been able to see one? No. I see the grey-headed bushshrike often. He comes and eats all the skinks in camp. Oh, hello. Yeah, I'm going to go back over this little hump here.
They maybe have
a double where? How are you going to... I'm trying to think. Now the moon has disappeared. That's the double whammy that Ferg is talking about. Let's try go forward. Just to get away from some of this thicker stuff. But then you see as it opens up on the right, it gets thicker on the left. Hang on, we might have an opportunity here. There. 2 meters. 1. Is that fine? Okay, there we go. Ferg is guiding here. There is the moon, which is hiding sort of away, but it's fairly pretty because it's going to have a marula branch straight through it. So they're almost perfectly in line with one another. So if you use your imagination, you can see the moon just back there through the marula tree. That's very pretty. The bird's only just starting to chirp now. A good moment to actually take a bit of a break. Let's have a little listen. Maybe we get to hear a leopard soaring. That's stunning, isn't it? And then we'll have one quick look at the sun, who's just hidden behind a bit of haze. I don't think that's quite a cloud. Maybe it is, but you can just start to see the faint pink. And I reckon in about 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, come on, 2, there it is, 1! Almost. I had to slow it down a little bit there, but there's the sun. Just poking through. Ha ha! Hey? When you're good, you're good. No, I'm just joking. Thanks, Ferg. That's good parking, though. I quite like this tree.
When you're in control of the sun.
Yeah, exactly. I did just put new batteries in the sun and the moon remote, so they are working a lot better now. But that's quite nice. all we need now is a bush baby to come bounding down this tree. And funny enough, the tree that you can see is the one where there is a bush baby living around in it. We've seen it up in the tops of those branches one evening, and I'm convinced it's got itself a nice 10-story home here that it can bound around on. And well, you know, every now and then I'd be very happy if this was my house to be able to watch the sun rise and the moon rise, and then of course watching both of those objects set again. Very cool, very pretty. Was worth the wait, that's for sure. Lovely. Okie dokie. Now, I think I was told just a moment ago that I held you for a little bit longer because this was just too beautiful. But let's go and see where James is off to.
I'm not off anywhere at the moment. I'm enjoying some more impala. A young female. Enjoying... What is she eating? Let's try and discover what she's eating there. Is it dry leaves? It is, you know. She's picking up dry ziziphus leaves. Dry buffalo thorn. I suppose that must be a little bit like eating dried spinach. Look at that. So a lot of these leaves will lose the sort of tannin quality that makes them relatively toxic when animals eat them. They will lose those tannins as they dry out. And so obviously what we have here is a situation where they're choosing not to eat the fresh leaves, quite possibly because the fresh leaves have still got some chemical defense. So they're going for the dry stuff. Oof, they spark each other's eyes out if they're not careful. I wonder if those are... I can't see a combretum tree, but they look a little bit like combretum leaves. But he's standing under a huge buffalo thorn, so I think they're buffalo thorn leaves. Isn't that a lovely little scene? Look how relaxed they are. They're very close to us. Oh, there's something very interesting here. Senzo, the one at the back, you can focus in on his head. Naturally, he's hiding his head behind the buttocks of the other ones. But when he brings his head out, if you could focus in on his head, that would be great. That one, the back. That's him. See how much shorter his horns are? Now, his horns are shorter, of course, because he's younger. But as we all know, impalas are synchronized breeders, which means they should, in theory, all have the same length horns if they were born in the same year. Now, these guys were definitely born, I mean, they're not more than a year, you know, they're less than a year apart from each other. And so what I think we have here is a standard issue baby from last year in December. And then one of the shorter horns was probably born around about the end of February this year. And as I've said to you before, of course, we have that secondary breeding season with the impala. It takes place in September. And that'll be one of the few impala born to that secondary breeding season. They're so confiding, not in the slightest bit scared of us. And can you hear how silent it is? There's almost nothing by way of dawn chorus at all. All I can hear, one or two francolins in the distance, that's all. No doves. A couple of hippos far in the distance at Chitwa. It is tremendously peaceful, as James has just pointed out to us, not me. Can't even hear them feeding. few little sort of whistling sounds from the thinking some rattling stickers. It really is profoundly silent. And some bird going tip, 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 tip. Now remember to keep asking us questions, everybody. Hashtag SafariLive. Otherwise you can send your comments through on the YouTube chat stream on Twitter. Now, the sun is a great favourite of many, and Stivovo, the Zen master of Wild Earth, would like to show you his and give you his impressions of the sunrise.
Thank you, James. Indeed, the sun is a favourite of us all. It is the lifeblood of everything. Beautiful, beautiful indeed. It's very still this morning, very, very quiet. Just having a little listen to see if we can hear anything. Okay, well, let's quickly go over to Taylor, who's found a feathered friend.
This is so cool. It's a white-throated robin-chat. I've never seen this bird before. I've never seen it in my life. This is a white-throated robin-chat. I think this is the bird that Brent is always chasing. Is it? But this is a new bird for me. Listen to its beautiful call. How stunning is that sound? Now this is something that I've been trying to find for a very long time, and I've never been able to come across it. Heard it, but I haven't been often get a chance to see it. I think it is the white-throated robin-chat that Brent is always after. Was it the white-throated? I don't know. Must be. I'm just having a look. This is so cool. How incredible does that sound now? Typically robins all over the world have the most beautiful singing voices. Ravinda, it is truly a beautiful bird. I don't know what I've done to deserve all these magical bird sightings this morning, but I'll take it. Oh, this is so cool. I'm so envious. So envious. I'm honestly thinking, because it's a bird I've never seen before, I'm going to have to take a picture. Sorry, I'm bouncing around there. I'm just opening my camera box because I have to take a photo of this. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever seen this bird. And no one will ever believe me. No one will believe me. I mean, no one else is seeing this. No, I'm just joking. Of course, the rest of the world is seeing this. But when you're a guide, obviously you start to see fairly common birds regularly. See, that wasn't very good. My settings weren't great there. One more, I promise, and then I'm done. Okay, I'm so happy. Please send me all the screenshots, though. I really look forward to looking at these a little bit later. But can anybody confirm if this is indeed the bird that Brent is often searching for? Because I cannot remember for the life of me, but I can't believe it's still just sitting here. Just like this, so relaxed. I can't believe I've added another bird to my list, considering I'm not in a different country and I've been up here since 2015. That's awesome news. Wait. Perhaps it helps it sing better, Ferg. How's that tune? One of the most gorgeous sounds in the bush. I'm so, absolutely so amazed. Okay, there you go. So Steve Ovo has said he saw one 2 months ago, and then he hasn't seen one, well, I suppose, since 2 months ago. But that is insane. Like I said, I've chasing this bird, often hearing it in the Mulwati. listening as on the Game Drive radio. It sounds like, I think there's some lions on Torchwood, and it sounds like they've eaten a giraffe, but James is on it. James is going to probably give you a proper update. I'm just going to turn the volume down a little bit. Oh my goodness! I cannot tell you how overwhelmed I am right now. I know it's just something as simple as a little bird, but like I said, it's so special to finally see something new, finally go or find something that you've been chasing for a long time. Like, I was just happy with that. I was really just happy with the orange-breasted bushrat that we had this morning. But this is a real treat. Christmas and my birthday have come early this year. I hope you're all enjoying the beautiful tune. Wonderful. Okay, well, I'm going to sit for a few more minutes and enjoy this beautiful robin chat and take in the moment. Off you go to Steve to see what he thinks.
Well done, Taylor. It's always awesome to find a new species. I saw one of those in the drainage line by Gallego pad in, I think, January, February. Very, very nice to see. So, yeah, not commonly seen in these areas, so always nice to find a bird that you know, when you spend hours and hours and hours and suddenly a bird you haven't seen pops up. We call those lifers. Add them to the list. But what Seb and I have decided to do is to stop and to just keep enjoying this view, because it's one of the things on a bushwalk. It's not just about seeing animals, it's about getting people in touch with their surroundings and with the actual view and the scenery. And it's always, as I like to do, an important time to spend a moment and to be grateful for everything we have. And we should all be very grateful for whatever we have. There's a new day, new challenges ahead. What are we going to achieve this morning? Well, we're going to put some kilometers on our boots and be happy about it. And as you said, we've got some snacks, so we're perfectly in the right spot. Just watching the morning unfold. James, you'd like to know what some of the necessities are for bushwalk. Well, you know, you've seen me wearing boots sometimes and then not wearing boots sometimes. So just comfortable shoes, you know. These are quite useful when it's cold, but I wear sort of sandals when it's not cold, but that is purely a personal choice. Long pants I'm wearing purely because I was up very early this morning, but sense of humor and enthusiasm is the number one priority for being out on bushwalk. A backpack with a suitable amount of water carrying capacity, 3 liters minimum. A number of pockets as well to put your snacks in. Always batteries and torches in case of emergencies, a first aid kit. Obviously, if you're walking with a qualified guide, you don't need the first aid kit. There's always paracord in my bag. Pepper spray, just in case. You never know. What else is there? Necessity. A lighter or two in case of needing to make a fire of sorts. And that kind of goes with the first aid kit as well. A knife, always a knife. Or 3. I've actually got 3 knives with me today. 1, 2, and a multi-tool. Just in case. You never know what medicinal plant you might need to harvest. It is Monday coming up, so we need to start getting ready for that. A radio, of course. A radio is important purely for communication purposes, for safety, for evacuation if necessary. When you go on a bushwalk, generally the radio is on complete silence and only turned on when needed. Binoculars on walk is an absolute must, purely because these animals have evolved themselves out here to have better eyes and ears than we do. So we need to try and enhance what we can. And if you're walking and you look over there and you kind of see something that's just standing out, then it's important to have a look with the binoculars, and then maybe you'll spot a lion before it gets too close to you. Okay, well, anyway, that's my little stuff on bushwalk for the moment, but let's go over to James for an update on some cats.
I know nothing about cats, nor do I know anything about knives. When I go on bushwalk, I don't carry any stabbing implements. I'd love to know what Steve's going to use all 3 of his knives for. Ooh, lion tracks. Really? Knives are very useful, of course, if you're cutting biltong, yes, or harvesting medicinal plants. Apparently that's what he uses them for. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out if these are actually lions that have come up here. Or just a very large hyena. Let me just do a little quick turnaround. I'll show you what I'm looking at. Do you see here, Sensor? Yes? You've got it there. That is a lion. Or a male leopard that's shifted. No, it's a lion. It's a lioness that's walked up here. She seems to be underneath. No, she's on top of the vehicle track. But this was very early last night, while the wind was still blowing. They're very indistinct tracks. This is very interesting. I mean, the small lioness. Let's drive up here. Can't be any harm in doing it. Maybe she whacked something and we'll catch her. Remember how windy it was yesterday if you were watching in the evening safari? And the tracks are very indistinct, I think, from that wind. Let me plug back in. Let's drive up here. It's funny how unusual it is these days to see lion tracks on Juma. Lions spending a lot of time elsewhere. That won't be the case forever. They will come back and spend time here, especially if we get a little bit of buffalo action. Just pull that in on the radio. Stations looks like tracks of a lioness going north up Vulture's Nest Road from the junction with Nala Road South. We'll follow up for a while. Let's keep an eye out. Herbert will be interested to know that. It would be nice to find a lion lying on the road here. There is some go-away bird action. They are calling, alarming. She's gone off the road already. She's not here anymore. A lot of hyena as well. I wonder if she isn't perhaps a pad. Anyway, let's keep going up here for a little while, and then we might turn around and go round towards Chelapan, which is not far. And just have a look in the drainage line where those go-away birds were saying go away. Let's go up to this little bend, and then we'll turn around, I think. Now, she's not here anymore. Okay, well, I'm going to go back and see in the sand of the riverbed. Stephen is still mining.
Very, very grounded this morning. And we have found a little mampinpan, which means a baby zebra wood. And there's not too many adults around, but every now and again you come across a very small one that is surviving. And if I show you this branch over here, it's quite easy to identify zebra wood. It's got this sort of ladder-like lattice as it goes up, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can imagine it would be perfect for a little chipmunk or something in a cage as a ladder. You can just see the ladder there. As Steph has told us before, this plant, we don't find too many of them around because they're damaged by drought, elephants, and also fire. But this one is growing on a small termite mound. I found about a handful of them in the last week, very, very small ones. And we're hoping that they're going to survive and get through, but you know, you don't get them much bigger. And when they are bigger, they just appear to be dead stumps. but very, very hard wood. I've spoken about them before, that these were used as stone implements, sort of supplementing iron before the invent of iron. You make very, very hard tools out of them. Well, harder than before iron anyway. But we don't get too many big ones, as I said. But beautiful wood inside. It's got a black and sort of clear grain that moves through and flows through the entirety of the wood. Hence the name zebra wood. And Dalbergia melanoxylon, because of the melanin or the darkness within inside the wood. Very, very good. And with most plants, we find out here that have got a very spiny, sharp stem to it. It's interesting. All of them, generally, are able to be applied to wounds or puncture marks as a sort of antiseptic dressing. So zebra wood is the same. You can hurt yourself with it and heal with yourself at the same time. Well, very good. On we go. And this one is growing out of a termite mound, so perfectly nutrient rich. And ideally it would get a little bit bigger than that, but they do get browsed as well. They're quite tasty. I'll show you. Let me find a nice leaf. Well, while we're on the leaf, actually, there we go. The leaf has got the same characteristic as the branch. That sort of ladder-like arrangement. None of the leaflets are opposite. This entire thing is the leaf. So very easy to identify if you find the leaves. Quite often they are leafless, and then you look at the stem with that ladder-like climbing. Okay, well, snacks are going in. Feeling better. Into the wilderness we once again venture. Fantastic. Tastes very floral. Not as nice as my fruit I had a little while ago, but you know, it must be the termite mound. It's a bit of fibre. Okay, well, Taylor's been very excited after seeing her white-throated robin chat. Let's see if she's found something else.
We just saw the bird again, the white-throated robin chat. This is so cool. And then I sat and I admired it for another minute or so. Basically, what has developed is that we've got no leopard tracks. There's no leopard tracks at all. And I bumped into Ryan from Arethusa, and he's come all the way from Triple M, and he said there's not any tracks crossing in or out. And I've only checked from Weaver's Nest towards Cheetah Cut Line. So that's sort of good news. It also means though that Tundi hasn't come back home, so I don't know where Tundi is, if she's still in Little Gowrie. She did give the guys a slip last night, as you can imagine, as she's known for doing. And then what else happened? Oh, and then there's no male leopard tracks coming this side, so I've just jumped into this drainage line and we're going to drive in this dry riverbed and see if there's anything here, and then I think we're going to go up Mamba and then do a loop around Central. But I'm sure whoever was out and about early this morning, probably just somewhere around here. We just have to look. There is a little daycare in here. Let's see if we can get a view of it just off to the right, but it might run. Go forward. Oh no, there we go. Hello, little daycare. Also a very special sight. Looks like a female. Very pretty. But look how well she blends in though with all that vegetation. She's virtually invisible. I mean, if she was standing dead still. That dark tail also definitely helps break up that solid grey colour. So that's very important. And quite a normal spot to see them. You often see them underneath the Tamboti trees. Tamboti trees, I mean, even though they're not the greatest sort of tree to have around, if you're looking to promote growth, we know that they send tannins down on the ground and it kind of stops everything else from growing around them. But in the summer months they're great because it allows small antelope like this to be able to hide underneath the thick canopy of leaves that they tend to get, although at this time of the year they're looking a little bit worse for wear as they shed a lot of their leaves. So that's not going to provide sort of much cover. But they're still feeding in amongst the trees. I think they might just have a birding morning today, to be honest. I am sort of quite happy with that. I don't know. It seems like the tripod today is giving Ferg grey hairs. You're losing all your hairs. I'm going to have to start calling you James. Now, I believe that most of you have fallen asleep already. Wake up! Maybe that will work. Hashtag Safari Live, please, with any of your questions. Or you can talk to us via the YouTube chat to tell us if that gave you a fright, if you are now awake. Did it work? Do I need to do something? Do I need to throw water at you? No, that'll be a problem. I'd be into trouble if I did that. That would be one camera down. And then Ferg would also probably bop me on the head with the nearest thing that he can grab too, so he wouldn't be too impressed with that.
My velvet glove here.
Your velvet. That's precaution. What happens if I do something like that? So yeah, so I don't know, maybe we'll get the Verreaux's eagle owl today. Every time I come into this area, I'm hoping to see one, and there used to be one that lived here, but I don't know. I have not been able to work out which tree it's sitting in now, so I just will keep looking. I'll keep searching up on top of the branches. I can't believe I got to finally see a new bird. I mean, I'm going to go on about it for the whole game drive. Be prepared. I'm warning you though, and say that I didn't warn you. I'm also feeling a little bit not tall enough today. I'm only just looking over the hood of the car. I don't think I packed enough blankets to sit on. And I'm not too short, but I mean I'm not 6 foot either. But some days it's hard to see down there. Jamie has to sit on piles and piles of blankets to see over the car. Sometimes I like to do it. It's quite nice, especially in the Mara, to sit up as high as you can. My favorite trick though is Manu, the way. Oh yeah, Manu is great. He sits on one of the railings. I mean, he's about half a meter up. He just puts a pillow underneath his bottom, and then off he goes, pan scanning around, searching for all sorts of things. It will be. I don't know what I was going to say there. I forgot. See, it's amazing how I go to say something and then just goes. Anyways, before that happens again, it seems as though James has been stretching his legs out of the vehicle. I wonder what he's been searching for.
I've been searching for lion tracks, but I didn't find any. I was looking at Chelapan, where there is mud, but there are no lion tracks. Everything's very quiet this morning. Very, very quiet indeed. So, do feel free to talk to us. In the absence of large predators to talk about, it's always nice to have some commentary from you, questions, anything you like about Africa, perhaps about travel, or anything else you'd like to delve into within reason. We'll do our best to ignite some kind of discussion. Especially if we can throw in a bit of controversy and get people fighting with each other on Twitter. That's always quite fun. Hey, just the last update on the Nkuhuma Pride that I had them on Simbambalai, which is to the north and west of us. They seem to have found a small repository of buffalo there that they are slowly working their way through. As I was saying to Herbert yesterday, though, there's a buffalo has been wandering around here of late, one buffalo. And this is quite interesting here. You see these tracks here, Senzo? I'll get back to the buffalo. I said that buffalo is waiting for us. And and Herbert said, yes, he's waiting for us, but the Nkuhuma Pride is looking for him. This is a male leopard track. Now, we had a male leopard this morning from the thermal drone, and I don't know if you managed to watch the video. I'm sure it's on Facebook now. You can probably go and have a look at it a bit later. We watched this male leopard on the drone, using the thermal drone. He was completely relaxed with the drone, about 90 meters above him. So it was almost 400 feet up. No, about 325 feet up. And we brought Steve in to have a look because Steve was driving the car. And the leopard took one look at the vehicle and ran. And it was so I don't know who it was. It's fascinating because, of course, the male leopards that we know here are not afraid of vehicles in the slightest. As soon as the vehicle moved out, And the drone was above him. He was completely relaxed and walking very slowly. So here you can clearly see he's been running, just from the way that he's kind of stepped over his front feet and from the scuffing of the sand. It's not a very clear track, but he obviously heard the vehicle coming along here and then dipped into this thick bush. And it was amazing to watch how he avoided the vehicle, how he cleverly got himself into thickets and on the other side of thickets so that Steve just couldn't get a view of him. And we could see all this playing out using the thermal drone. I'm not going to try and find where that chap went because he very clearly did not like the vehicles, and I have no idea who he was. Anyway, I couldn't find any further of these lion tracks, and I wonder if they are perhaps not very fresh. Yeah, Ali, it could have been a new leopard. I asked Tristan, I got hold of him, he was also watching the broadcast. He said there is a youngish male that he's seen once up around our northern boundary, which was very skittish of vehicles, so it's possible. I mean, to find a skittish leopard here, a male especially, is not that unusual because, of course, we're close to the Kruger Park boundary. And in the Kruger, yes, there are vehicles, but there's nothing like the concentration of vehicles that you find in the Sabi Sand, which means that many of them will never have seen cars before. Dispersing males seeking out a territory suddenly come into this area, and then they find themselves sort of, well, not harassed, but they find themselves in the presence of these great big green things that make a noise and smell bad, and so they get a bit of a fright. It takes them a while to get used to them. A very nice hornbill there, Sinzel. You see him. Do you want this bird? Lucas, do you want this bird? It's very pretty. Young yellow-billed hornbill. No? Okay. Let's go back to Steve.
Well, thanks, James. Well, we've found the tracks of that leopard that we found this morning with the thermal drone, and it's definitely a male leopard. This is the back foot you can see here. It's quite clear. It's his back left foot. You can tell that by the length of this toe here. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. And what's interesting is here is his front foot here, and it's moving very quickly. You can't really even see that it's a track, but it's an animal that's running. And as James is saying, that the animal was skittish, but you know, my thoughts are, when last did we see a skittish leopard in this area? So I think it's a combination of that buzzing that the drone makes in the air. It's quite a loud sort of sound from a distance. Combination of that and then a vehicle suddenly being there, so they then suddenly associate this vehicle with that noise and cause them to move off. I know what James said is that every time we kind of stopped moving the car, he kind of slowed down and just started walking again, and then we moved. But I think also then the drone moving left or right also makes a little bit more of a sound. It's hard to say. I mean, we've got the tracks now. We're going to try and see. I mean, he's moving very quickly here. Here's his back foot. There's his front foot. Back foot and front foot. And there's the back foot there. There's the front foot. This is the right now. And you can see the distance between them. It's very far. Running, moving at a very high speed. What's your thoughts, Herbs? Okay. So, interesting. But it's good to discuss and good to get our head around all of this and to see exactly what's going on. It was very, very interesting. I didn't get to see it from the sky, but I got to see it from the ground.
Look at this beautiful new filter we have added to our collection. Isn't it lovely? Sometimes we have heart shapes and triangles and all sorts today, but this is very nice. What is a model in a karaoke movie? Tell me what you want, what you do. Not that I can karaoke very well. Are you... Ferg is now going to wipe the lens. This is how you wipe the lens. Lens wiping 101. You choose a cloth that is clean. Did you use any lens solution today? Did you go without?
No, this is
Is it just high quality African fog? Is that what you've got?
Pure organic.
Pure organic. There, that's what we're all about. It's good to hear. Wonderful. Okay, so we are driving towards Central now because Fergus wants to put the drone up. And what shots are you looking for today? Beautiful tree shots.
It's just it's an introduction.
Oh, very exciting. So as you can imagine, with all these behind-the-scenes work that we do, you've seen all the different SafariLive stories. As directors want, they have a vision, they have an idea of what the whole thing is going to look at. So Kirsty is after a shot. So no pressure, Ferg. No pressure.
Shiver in my boots.
So we just sort of headed that way at the moment. Yes. Ha, that's very nice. Thanks, Mel, for saying that I shouldn't quit my day job. Why not? I was actually about to just tell you all that I'm leaving. I'm going to Australia now, and I'm going to become a top pop singer of Kylie Minogue. Yeah, Kylie and I just had a cup of coffee with. No, I don't know. I can't do an Australian accent. That's horrible. I should also not try and do accents either. I'm not very good at that. So I was just checking to see there's no tracks coming down here. Ah, right. So as Ferg was saying, unfortunately, as much as he'd love to show you what we're about, when we do, we won't be able to because we're not on the right car. So you'll just have to wait for the SafariLive story to come out to see the shot. We'll see if you can spot it in the next couple of months. Hey, Ferg? Everyone will. Hopefully you won't forget about it. So that's the idea behind it. I don't know where we're going to go after this, though. I think this leopard is on the property. It hasn't crossed out because I've yet to see any tracks crossing out. So at some point or another, we'll go back down towards Twin Dams. We're just we're closing the gap, starting off wide, and then hopefully we'll narrow it down, which will be great. That'll be quite nice. Very nice. That's how we say nice in South Africa. Nice. It's got to have a nice accent as well. Oh, for some reason Steve is pretending to be a bloodhound of sorts because he's now got his nose on the ground.
I do, and with the expert help of Herbie, he's identifying this track. This is the back foot of the leopard, male leopard, and that toe there, see how long it is? It's very little bit hooked over here. Herbie's expert information is telling us that this is indeed hukumuri, so not a new leopard, but lately we've been seeing he's not that relaxed, potentially some vehicle pressure that he's been experiencing in the west, but I had noticed that he doesn't relax. He's not that relaxed to vehicles, but he's okay. But the way he was moving last night is obviously something we need to figure out. But the reason why we want to talk about this is here is his back foot. It is the right one now. And here is his front foot. And you can see the running. It's quite hard to see, but it's a scuff mark in the sand. And I'm going to demonstrate to you how I can, what running is all about and why the track comes out like that, not just walking. So I'm going to do it with my own feet. See if Seb can document this. So essentially I'm going to do two over here. First of all, I'm going to walk and show you how my boots line up on the ground, walking a normal pace. Okay, so there's the normal pace. You can see my toes are digging into the ground. Can you see that? It's quite a clear track, isn't it? Now I'm going to do the same thing at a much faster walk. Okay, I'm going to do it at a much faster walk now. Have a look at the difference between this foot now and this foot over here. It's the same foot as before, but look at the scuff mark in the front. Now that's walking really, really quickly. Now I'm going to do a third one, which is going to be me running. Are you ready? Okay, that warms you up in the morning. Now have a look at how, here is number one. Okay, you can see the full foot. Yes. There's the heel. There's the toe. That's me walking. Walking at a quick pace. Here's the heel. It's not very clear. A lot of mess over here. There's the toe mark. And here's me running. Where's the rest of my shoe? You can't see it. You can't see my shoe at all. That's just the toe scuffing off the ground. So that's all you see when an animal's moving quickly, is that scuff of the soil. Moving quite quickly, also a scuff, but you can still see some of the track. Moving very slowly, very easy to see the majority of the print and the detail. You can even see the name of the shoe underneath. So that is exactly what's going on. And when you're looking at an animal and it's tracking, and if you want to be able to find an animal, looking at the tracks and how it moves will help you do that. A leopard that's moving like that, you can tell that it's moving quickly away from whatever's going on. If a leopard is hunting and stalking, you'll see it will be walking back foot on front foot. And if it's walking at a territorial sort of pace, it's just walking relatively fast, but you can still make out that front foot, even though it is a little bit scuffed. So, interesting stuff indeed. Thanks, Aegis. Well, just wanted to show you guys that. It's always nice to see how these things work out in the wilderness. And when it comes to tracking animals, if you want to find an animal, you need to know what it was doing. How was it behaving? When you come across leopard tracks that are walking quite quickly in a territorial gait, hey Herbie, are you going to find that animal? Look at Herbie's face. Are you going to find that animal?
Not at all.
Not at all. You're going to find a very long time that animal's going to walk and walk and walk. But if the leopard is stalking, starts walking like this, and it turns to the side, then there's a good chance it might be hunting on that side. Mac, let's ask Herbie. Herbie, do you think you could track a leopard based on the smell of the urine? Yes, he says he could. He thinks he could track one by the smell of the urine. These guys are incredible in their ability to find things great and small out here in the African wilderness, and we just follow on and are learning all the time. Okay, well, an individual organism out there that's quite good at finding leopards for us as well. James is looking one of them.
I'm not sure how good these are at finding leopards, are they? I didn't know that the crested francolin was particularly known for his leopard finding abilities. He's getting so close to the vehicle that we're not going to be able to see him fairly soon. The other one's coming through the grass there, Senzel, to the left. There he is. Hello. Now, as I keep waffling on about the colours of the winter, I really love the colours of these things, especially in the winter, and you can see how beautifully they blend in there. Isn't that nice? Just trying to find the odd grass seed to eat. Will definitely feed on any insect or grub that they can find, even though those are going to be hard to come by at this time of the year. We've had no further sign of anything really of great use. Let's just see if we can get one more look at him there. There they are, they've come out now. This is called milking the sighting, because we haven't found anything else. Interesting, someone's flying a drone. You see it there? It's that buzzing noise. Oh, I see. It's Fergus. He's getting a shot for Kirsten, I believe. I thought that was very odd, but it is just Fergus. Not bad luck he's got the old drone. He hasn't got the new one. Let's have one last look at the crested francolins and their pretty colours. Robert, I don't know how much food this bird could eat. I mean, do you mean in terms of mass? I'm not really sure. Let me just have a quick look at his, if there's anything unusual about the diet of the crested francolin. I don't think there is. Here he is. Primarily corms, bulbs, green shoots, fruits and berries in non-breeding season, but changing to an insect-dominated diet in the summer. So he's looking for corms, which are underground grass stems, or underground sort of, little grass bulbs. Other bulbs, green shoots if he can. Fruit and berries is quite interesting. But Robert, I'm afraid, I'm going to guess about a handful, perhaps. A handful of food a day. But it will become more and more difficult for them to find food at this time of the year, of course. There's a question from Ravinda here. When you want to know how many franklins there are in this reserve and in Africa, I'm going to guess that you don't mean actual individual franklins, because I have no idea. In terms of franklin species, though, I might be able to help you. In southern Africa, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 here at Djuma. The crested, Koki, Shelleys, Swainsons, and Natal. I'm going to include all the spurfowl. But in southern Africa, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 species of franklins or spurfowl. I'm going to say in Africa they've probably got double that then. They're 24 odd. But how many actual franklins there are in Africa, I'm not going to tell you. Millions. Alrighty. Let's continue along the way. It does seem that the sky is clouding up a little bit off towards the east there, and I wonder if we aren't in for a sort of chillsome day. It wasn't that cold this morning, and often that means that it's not going to warm up. And if that cloud continues to cover the sun, that's what's going to happen. It won't be very pleasant at all. I'm currently placing my gloves back on my little fingers so that they don't become too cold. Brr, brr. Few elephant tracks on the road. Naturally, no signs of any other sign of any elephant. We'll go up and check around Buffelshoek Dam, and then I think we'll head down to Chitwa. In the meantime, I think Stephen has got an update of what he's following on foot.
Yes, well, we've been following these tracks of this leopard. And you don't only find the tracks of the leopard, what you do find as well is this is tracks of an impala that is taken off in that direction. Running, it came running from this direction at high speed, hit the ground like that. You can see the hoof is hit here. That sprayed the sand forward. It's actually hit and slid in. The track is slid in. And the other foot has slid in, hitting the sand that way, and then bounding off. Let's have a look how far. Look at this. That's where it's hit the floor. 1, 2, I can't even tell. It's come off-road here somewhere. It hit there, 2 feet, and bounded off this way. So that's something you're also looking for when you're looking for predators, is the signs of animals running. And you've got to understand the direction that they're running. And when I run, look what happens when I run. I kick the sand backwards. We are very different to antelope. When antelope run, they hit the ground forward, and then they jump that way. So that's why that dirt is in that way. So you can quite often get confused and think that the animal is actually running that way because the sand has been deposited behind. But because of their hooves, they're running on their nails. They're hitting the ground like that before taking off again. So no deposit of soil or sediment behind. Do you see how that works? And then off they go. So don't get confused with the tracking that way. A lot of people will think, a lot of my students used to think that the impala is running that way. But in fact, you see all that dirt, even the crust of the ground here. And very likely that was from Hukumuri. They all saw him. There was a few tracks before as well of them running. And it's not only the Franklins that alarm call for the leopards, it's also impala and kudu. And sometimes the kudu and the impala don't even alarm call, they just look. Those of you who were with me yesterday morning will remember that impala ram sitting on top of that Terma mound, staring at Shadula as she walks off into the bushes. It was really quite something for me to experience. I've only ever seen Yala bulls watching, or giraffe. Giraffe and Yala bulls will just stare and watch a leopard. Whereas kudu, impala, younger Nyalas will always bark and follow it. That impala was going, okay, he's walking away from me. Let's not say anything. Maybe he'd barked before and we didn't hear it. Or snorted before. It's very interesting. We learn every day. Kenneth, you probably could calculate the speed. But it'd be quite difficult with the scuff mark itself because it's also substrate dependent. I mean, for example, here, where the ground is quite hard, you might get a very different sort of scuff mark to where it's very sandy. But what you can quite often, you could be able to correlate if you had the maths, which I don't have, where the scuff mark is, where the next stride lands, or where the next feet hits on the ground. So a distance that they landed, you can kind of work that out. People have done the science on how far impalas can leap at full stride, and I think it's 12 meters they can bounce. Can you imagine that? 12 meters, they can hit the floor and they can land again. That's at full speed. So I'm sure through some studies, it would take a fair bit of effort to work out exactly, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, don't you want to show us?
Okay, let's do 12 meters, shall we? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Full speed, they can clear that. Obviously that's at full speed. You don't see them often doing that. But at absolute full capacity, they can clear. Okay, Seb's going to stand over there. I'm going to stand over here. And they can also clear 3 meters. So, what is that about there? Well, Mac, it looks like it when they do that, they're flying. It looks like it. I mean, their body angling. The front, 37 feet translated. If my numbers are 100% correct, obviously you don't see impala moving at that speed or covering that distance. But when you see impala absolutely lose their minds and go running, and they go sprinting in this direction, you just see them clearing trees and branches and jumping completely over cars. It's quite something to experience. Quite something indeed. Okay, well apparently James is with the most pathetic jumpers in the bush.
That's a really good link, Steve. They're not good jumpers, these elephants. This particular elephant is not a very happy one. She was deeply displeased when she saw us to start with, which I was surprised about because we were very careful and came up very slowly. Anyway, let's just enjoy them. She's relaxed now, looking a bit sort of I think she's possibly a young matriarch. She might not even be the matriarch. I think she's pregnant as well, though. Which is likely to make her slightly more nervous, cranky. You know what you can see quite nicely if you zoom in just behind the ear there, you can see the temporal gland and you can actually see the opening just behind her eye there. Yeah, she's not happy. You see there, large temporal gland, and it is streaming, which means that she is feeling a certain sense of stress for whatever reason. It's not us. She was streaming before we got here. I should just try and move a little bit forward. Finally, we have some nice animals to look at. Now, she really is not happy at all. She does have space to move away, though, so we haven't boxed her in at all. She can just move away, and we too will move away if she continues to show signs of distress. But I think the less noise we make, the more relaxed she will become. She's just kind of saying, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Do you really need to be here? Relaxing now, as we are quiet. Just stay on her. There's a nice little baby to the right-hand side, but let's just stay on this cow for a while. Carol, it could be. She certainly seems to be lactating. So it could be that she's got a youngster nearby and that's just making her a bit stressed. But you can see she's gone quiet now. She doesn't seem to be too worried. Yeah, it's noise. Elephants don't like noise. Yeah, she does have a very pronounced sort of brow ridge, Saskia. You're absolutely right. Let's go round to the youngster here, Senzel. The little one with his mum. There we are. It's probably a little bull. He just moved closer to his mum as we arrived, just in case he felt a little bit nervous, in case he didn't, because he obviously doesn't, he's inexperienced with human beings and cars. I can hear quite a large herd off towards behind where you saw the cow, the slightly irritated cow, is completely relaxed now. She's now walked away. Let's stay looking at this chap. If he doesn't decide to be brave. It's very funny when these young bulls become brave. Fern's a really interesting one, and I don't know any other animals with temporal glands. Interestingly, their closest living relative of all elephants is the rock hyrax, which is seems a bit ridiculous. It's a tiny little thing that lives in rocky outcrops. It doesn't look anything like an elephant, and if there was another animal that had a temporal gland, I suspect it would be the rock hyrax. But I don't know if rock hyraxes have temporal glands. You can Google a picture. In fact, I can probably show you a picture of a rock hyrax. It's quite amusing to think that that is the closest living relative of the elephant. Let's see if I've got my normal book here. I do. In fact, it's quite ridiculous to think about it. Little bull walking across the road. Oh, yes, it's going to give us a bit of a visit. Now come over here. There are lots and lots of different kinds of hyraxes. So I suspect they're all probably more or less similarly related to elephants. It's not close, though. It's certainly not a close relationship. So here are the hyraxes. There they are. You can see they look like rodents. They are not rodents, but that's what they look like. And the rock hyrax is the most common one. And he is... there are 5 different species of rock hyrax, all right, so they're all sort of rock hyraxes. That's interesting. There they are. You can see that, interestingly, their skulls do have a slightly elephantine look about them. You know, the big, heavy bottom jaw. Fascinating. Right, let's go back to this elephant to the left of us now. Obviously, he's going to go behind a bush. Sorry, Malika, I missed that question entirely. Let's have it again, please, if you don't mind. Oh, right. Yes, I think that heavily pregnant elephants certainly would eat differently, Malika. They will have a much higher nutritional need than elephants that are not heavily pregnant. And I have found that they perhaps, when they get quite close to birth, when the fetus is very heavy, bearing in mind that it is in utero for 22 months, can you imagine? Yes, then you probably find that they do get slightly more cranky. They're much less tolerant of us. Well, not much less. They are a little bit less tolerant of us, and they'll tend to move away more quickly. But they don't get particularly angry. I'm no doubt that there are emotions and feelings that they have towards the end of their pregnancy that we would just have no idea about. So, but that they will communicate to their herds. They communicate extensively within the herds, and I'm sure that there are personality differences as all of those tremendously unsettling hormones, I guess, of pregnancy flow through the body. Carol, they do tend to get a little bit stressed when food sources diminish. Certainly when water diminishes, they get stressed. Food seldom is a limiting factor in this particular area. They've normally got enough to eat, but water can be. And definitely in drought times, you'll find them streaming a lot more than they would otherwise. They get a lot more cranky around water holes. They'll chase other animals away from water. So yes, when they are limited by especially water, they will certainly become fairly unpleasant and unfriendly with other animals if they feel like their water source is being threatened. We're heading off towards Buffelshoek Dam now to see if we can find anything there. That herd of elephants wasn't the most confiding herd of elephants I've ever seen in my life, but it was nice to have them. I don't believe that Taylor has had any more luck than we have. I think she's just knocking around hoping to find the thermal leopard.
We are trying to look for the thermal leopard. I haven't found it yet, but we're here on Elephant Carcass now. This is a road I have yet to drive this morning, and this is apparently the direction that this cat was coming in. Is this where he almost walked into a buffalo? Ah, I didn't see that part. I think I was making a cup of tea. That's exciting. If I could see a buffalo then. So we're just going to have a little scratch around here. I don't know if we're going to see any leopards today, though. It's cold. All of a sudden the clouds have come over. I did actually watch James earlier take his hat off, his beanie off and replace it with his hat, and I think he's done that too soon. I might have to go back and find him, and if he's not wearing his beanie, I might have to borrow it. Not even all the amount of hair can keep my ears warm today. See, I'm lucky. I can do this. Just pull it. There's so much. And then you just do the little tuck. Earmuffs. Nice, eh? So cool having long hair. Not in summer, though. In summer, it's really unpleasant. But hey, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. Anyways, so long hair in winter is nice. But it needs to be longer so that I can wrap my hair around almost as a secondary scarf as well. Like use it like a buff, you know. So. Oh yes, Rapunzel. That's life goals, to have hair long enough that I can throw it out of the window And yes, and my knight in shining armor can climb all the way up to the top. And my castle where I've been locked away. Isn't that funny? That'd be terrifying if I had hair that long. I don't think. Imagine trying to brush it. Imagine on those humid or those days where it starts raining, you will see how my hair turns into a bird's nest. No, thank you. I don't want hair that long. I've changed my mind. Rose? Yes, bushwalk would be a nightmare. I'd be picking up leaves wherever I went. Yeah, that wouldn't be great for bushwalk. Also, how would I tie it up though? I mean, my head would be, I'd have a sore neck. I'd be walking around like this all day. It'd be so heavy. Imagine the poor cameraman, exactly. I don't think I wouldn't have there wouldn't be a hat that would be big enough. I'd have to go hatless and makeshift an umbrella to, yeah, but you see, it's a disaster. Luke in Final Control seems to think that if I had long hair like Rapunzel, that in a dangerous situation my hair would be great for camouflage. That's from the wrong movie. That's from the Addams Family, and it's called Cousinette, Luke. But yes, at this time of the year I'd blend into the vegetation. Can you imagine? Just drop the curtain. Yeah, that would be really cool. I'm going to have to grow it and then let you know and test the theory out and see how camouflaged I am. My hair's like basically the same color of the lions at the moment. What did Brent want to? Pretty sure Brent's one said, let's go to Taylor, who's got the yellow hair. Remember, instead of saying golden, he called my hair yellow, and I was like, thank you very much, Brent. That's very kind of you. It was so funny that day. And then the guys, I still haven't let him live it down, obviously. So nothing in these drainage systems, not even many birds for us to look at just yet. I'm also keeping an eye out for the buffalo that was here, the thermal buffalo. But nothing just yet. There are actually, there's buffalo tracks going in this direction. Maybe we'll see this buffalo. Treehouse Dam is just up ahead. Is that where he's wandering to? He just seems to walk up and down. I'm sure it's the same buffalo we've been seeing. Yeah, still here. Jen, I suppose when you say how often do I just run into lions, like when I'm running in the bush or when I'm driving and then like, oh, surprise, there's lions in the road bumbling along. Often it does happen. There's more chances of you just bumping into an animal. I've seen a little daycare that's obviously come down for a bit of a drink. See if we can get it. We're having lots of luck with day. Nah, gone. Too quick. It ducked off into the right. I feel very vulnerable. Don't even joke right now, Lucas. Lucas said, this is his words, speaking of running into cats, let's go to James. So that's exactly what you can do.
Well, we got very lucky here at Biffleshoek Waterhole. There is little Tlalamba on her own. I don't know where her mother is. I think that's what we're looking at. Pretty sure Tlalamba. Tlalamba, for those of you who don't know, an 8-month-old leopard cub whose mother is Tundi, 12-year-old leopardess, who is the bulk of our leopard viewing at the moment. Now, quite amusingly, as we arrived here, I was singing the following song. There is never anything here at Biffleshoek except one hippopotamus, and he's not even here today. And Senzo said, leopard, leopard. And there she was. Isn't she lovely? Just quietly waiting for her mum. Now, we tracked her mum up here yesterday and then away from here. And then there was great talk of her being all the way south of the reserve. Now, we're a long way to the north here. Now, whether Tlalamba is exerting her independence and has walked here on her own, or whether Tundi came back, fetched her and brought her up here, I don't know. Quite possible that Tundi's close by as well. But she looks like she's on her own. Her first reaction when she saw us was to run for cover. So we just put some distance between us and her. Now she seems, as you can see, to be totally relaxed. She's a little bit out in the open. We're not going to move from here. I think we're just going to stay where we are and enjoy her. I'm assuming everybody agrees with me that this is Tlalamba. Oh, she's so tired. Now, Gemma, she seems settled now, and certainly she's cleaning herself. She wasn't settled when we arrived. It might have been a dreadful song I was singing, but I think it's because her mum isn't around. Oh, she's very tired. Now, you watch the way she moves. It's not a confident sort of stroll. She's slinking a little bit. Just going to give her some space to move. If she does go into some thick bush, everybody, we're not going to follow her because her mum's not here. If she just wanders gently along the road, then we might just keep our distance and follow, since I'll try and move now. There she goes. I'm afraid I missed the name there, but the answer is that Thandi is not... Oh, love, hope, faith. I don't think that Thandi's ready to leave her, no. Shadow, Thandi's sister, was often mating by the time she had an 8-month-old cub. All Thandi's doing is hunting. So what Tlalamba's done now is get behind another bush. Largely, I think, so that she can feel slightly more protected. And of course, Jigger is about as quiet as a charging herd of buffalo, so it's very difficult to be silent. Now, she's just behind this little pile of sticks. You can see her tail going. And I'll just try and get into a position where we can view her at a bit of a distance. There she's moving now. She's so sweet. Little tail up. Bit of golden light catching her now. Look at her. Oh, that's precious. She's not increasing the distance between us and her. She's just kind of walking around at the moment. But to go, we don't often see her on her own. But it's not unusual for her to be on her own, because of course Thandi is out hunting a lot. And so while it's not unusual for her to be on her own, it's not very common that we see her on her own. It does happen from time to time. Shall we try a little move? She's still moving, she's still going that way, huh? We'll just drive along the road here. I'm not going to go in there after her. Gemma, Thandi will go miles and miles to hunt. I mean, at least sort of 4 or 5 miles from her sometimes. You still see her. I can see the tail. Yep. Oh, she's found something, yes. Some dung, perhaps. You can see she's just trying to keep the distance that we've maintained. Carol, probably about 1 kilometre, I'd say. So, about 2/3 of a mile, I reckon she'd be able to hear her mother calling. Now, as long as she allows us to stay within this distance, I'm going to keep moving along the road here. I'm not going to go into the bush after her. But she seems to be relatively comfortable at this distance, so I'll just see if we can't get another view. You still see her there, Sims? But we are not going to follow her, I'm afraid, without Mum. Definitely not as confident as she is with Mum. You got her. Yeah, I think it's probably the last view of the tail we're going to get. So let's go over to Steve, who's not mining anymore. He's swimming.
Well done, James, for finding that beautiful little rebellious cat. Seb has just pointed out to me Taylor's fairy staircase. Well, I wonder if Taylor knows that this is a very popular area for the Nkuhuma Pride. They like to walk up the drainage here. Directly where I'm walking, they like to walk up here. And they like to claw and scratch and sometimes even climb into this beautiful big tree here. So I know there were some questions earlier about the Nkuhumas. Let's see if we can find any scratches on the tree from some lion claws. Have you got anything, Herbie? Nothing yet. Elephant damage. It's a beautiful big weeping boer bean. It's a magnificent specimen. Just looking for some claw marks, but nothing really fresh. There's a little bit of one there. There's a claw mark, I'd say. Herbs, don't you think? That's a claw mark. Just here. Bit of a claw mark there. In the soft tissue of the wood. So Herbie says he's seen them climbing, physically climbing into this tree. Okay, well, we're looking up a very tall tree. You'd have to be quite tall to eat the branches all the way up there.
Hello, giraffe. Yes, you all guessed it. Ferg and I are again back with the same group of giraffe that I think we've seen for the last week now, which is great. And this is the beautiful big male. He's lovely. I love his coloration. He's so dark. I'll never forget the first time that I saw a giraffe that was actually much darker than him. He was pretty much black in color. You couldn't even make out that he had sort of patterns on him. And it wasn't that he was a melanistic giraffe or anything like that. It was just he was producing so much testosterone. It was amazing to see. He was huge as well. This is down in the southwest. But I was so surprised, especially coming from the Eastern Cape, where the species of giraffe is the same species, the southern giraffe, seem to be much lighter in color, very, very light. I mean, I've never seen a male even have a coat as dark as this fella has. So I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe my eyes and what I'd been seeing. But it seems to be fairly common up here, with the males being very, very, very dark in color. I wonder if it's got something to do with also what they're feeding on, the types of vegetation that they're sort of eating here. But just not actually feasting at the moment, just chewing the cud as they normally do, which is great. It's nice to see them. They are all moving off, though, into the thicket. We've been doing loops, but we have been seeing their tracks all over here. Where did I see them yesterday? Yesterday they were at Chele Pan, so they haven't actually moved that far. What have you spotted? Yeah, he's turned off to the left now, and the girls you can't see are to his right. So there might be another giraffe coming through. It could be an impala walking through the grass, maybe a family of kudu. It could be any one of those. He doesn't seem too perturbed by it, though. He's not fixated on it. He's still just watching what the girls are getting up to. But they have all disappeared down there. Irene, it's actually quite easy to tell the differences between male and female giraffe. Now, if we look at this one, this is a female, and all I've done is I've looked at her ossicones. So those are not horns on top of her heads, but the things that are protruding from her skull. They're very, very slender and quite narrow, and then also they've got the black tufts of hair on top, which is an easy identification. And I also just find that they're a lot finer. If she turns her head towards us, you'll see that her face is fairly sort of smooth, around I suppose around where her cheeks would be, and her nose. Whereas if you look at an older male, they start to get these big calcium deposits on their face, so they almost look like they've been beaten up, the big male giraffes, like boxes, almost. You know, they've... Look there, you see all those lumps and bumps that he's got on his head? The females don't tend to get that. Now, they say that sort of, that calcification that forms up there, it's to help when they are fighting. Remember, when they do swing their heads around, it's basically, I always like to describe it as a big weight on the end of a rope that's being swung around, and that can be quite dangerous. So I'm sure that sort of helps protect them just slightly, but then his ossicones are a lot broader, a lot thicker, and then also lack hair on top of the ossicones. Now, when they're young, it's difficult because they've all got hairy ossicones, but as they seem to get older, that top, it sort of it tends to disappear. So the other way you can do is, of course, look underneath the belly, and if you see a little bump, it'll be tough now because he's hiding away. If you see a little bump underneath the belly, it almost looks as if it's a belly button. It's not a belly button. Yes, you can guess. And females don't have that, and you can also see the mammary glands of the females sometimes too. But a bit difficult to see. He's having a scratch there. I don't know. Itchy. His tail's swishing. I did see quite a few little oxpeckers flying around. Clean, I'm sure that the giraffe get affected by the cold, but again, they'll deal with it in very much the same way that all the other animals deal with it out here. They get used to it. So the temperatures aren't super extreme out here. So, you know, nothing really drops below freezing. I mean, we don't even see frost or anything on the ground. So it does get cold, and maybe some of them adapt thicker coats during the winter months. But again, even our winters, they're fairly mild. They're just really chilly throughout the evenings and the mornings, but then it warms up and it's a nice summer's day. So, you know, they can get warm again. But, yeah, they just get used to it. Like I said, the temperatures don't change very much throughout the entire year. It's always tough for the young animals to get used to those very chilly nights, how the temperature just sort of suddenly drops. We often see a lot of impala lambs, wildebeest calves and things like that, and the smaller antelope species end up dying of cold shock. You see, after a bit of rain, you can imagine, when it rains a lot and then it gets cold, that's not good for them. So, Vanina, you noticed that on this giraffe there was a patch of skin hair that was sort of missing, and you were wondering if it was a type of shedding. I think that's just a spot it's rubbed raw, maybe an old injury, maybe it cut itself in a scar, and that's a bit of a scar. The other thing is that like a lot of the animals out here, it could be maybe a bit of mange, maybe it was an itchy spot, and then it just continuously kept rubbing on a tree or something along those lines, and then the hair is sort of fallen out. But I have seen with giraffe, often when they have big old scars, the hair tends to sort of fall out around, and they'll rub it. They'll get itchy. You can imagine all the flies and things hanging around it, so it becomes a bit of an irritation. But nothing too serious. Nothing too serious at all. We're very nice, but I think let's carry on, because these giraffes are not just disappearing into thicker and thicker vegetation. So we will move on around. Right. Wonderful. So it's just trying to get the accelerator going there. I'm going to send you all the way to the northeast of where I am, where James is sitting with a leopard.
I've been having an astounding conversation with Senzo, who has told me that he thinks that the leopards basically have a very poor social structure. He says, why is it that, you know, Tandi and Kuchava don't meet up and let their cubs play? Then they could talk about the issues of motherhood, perhaps share problems, and in so doing ensure a much longer life for themselves and for their cubs by the sharing of the perils and allowing their children to play with each other, get strong, socialize. Not so, Senzo. It'd be a better idea. He's not a fan of this sort of solitary life that they lead. No, he says they've got beef in the family, and that's not good. If only there was some sort of conference of leopards you could address. There's the squirrel up there on a thorny tree. Sarah? No, I don't think so. I think the chances of Thandi leaving her cub because she steals food are very slim. Mothers expect their children to try and steal food. Even human mothers do the same. So no, I don't think that would have any effect on whether or not she leaves Thandi. She hasn't left Thandi, she's just gone hunting or marking territory, one of the two. They will spend less and less time with each other, but not for a while yet. Isn't that sweet? I think that's a young squirrel. Luke says that the squirrel is a very solid eagle fruit. That's not untrue, except for the thorns. I think an eagle would think twice about flying down into that knob thorn and grabbing the squirrel. I would have thought the squirrel should have thought twice before climbing this knobthorn tree. You think it's stuck there? Well, I mean, I must confess I wondered the same thing. Well, let's see. There we go. It's licking its foot because its foot's sore. Or was it eating? I wonder what it's eating. Must be a little seed pod. But really, what a place to be. There we go. Not so stuck, Luke, you see? Not yet, anyway. Come on, little guy. I think he's got a nest there. Perhaps some friends, even. He's a young male squirrel living on the outskirts of society in some sort of cattle post, you know, far away from the rest. I don't think there are any others in this tree. Very interesting that he found something to eat at all up in that tree. You know, nuts, fruits are their main thing. Oh, there's a friend. Hooray! He's very cute. Many of you saying cute and how sweet, etc. Well done. They are very, very sweet indeed. Let's carry on. That is the tree squirrel, by the way, the only squirrel species that we get over here. By over here, I mean not in South Africa, I mean in the low veldt of South Africa. We get a number of other squirrel species, including the European grey squirrel, which lives in Cape Town, along with a number of other Europeans, in fact. Germans, Dutch, all like to live in Cape Town from time to time. I'm not sure why that's relevant, but I just thought I'd say it anyway. Alright, we're going to go down towards Chitwa. Taylor is now going to tell you what she's going to do. Unless Taylor's going to Chitwa.
Chitwa. Oh, no, now we're live. Sorry, I started talking before we were live. My apologies. No, I'm not going to Chitwa. I was just admiring the way you were saying it, James. I'm just bumbling. We're just looking for things. James, maybe though, if you are that side, why don't you go through the Mulati and see if that bird is still there, that white-throated robin chat. It was so relaxed. I can't believe I've never seen it there before. I don't know. Maybe it lives around somewhere in that area. It'd be a good place for it. I'm just having a look. I thought I saw a leopard track, but I may have imagined it. That's what I'm wanting to see. So now we're just having a grand old time, trying to warm up, and at least the sun has come up. But now I've got a problem because it's that morning sun again where I just want to keep my eyes closed. And now I'm driving with my eyes closed because I can't open them. Not because it's too bright, because just the sun is so nice on my face. Could go to sleep. Oh, okay, good night, Ferg. Just tell me when to turn left or right. Feels so nice. That's the most rewarding feeling, is being able to take your gloves off to actually warm your hands up. Because, you know, I feel like gloves do keep your hands warm, but it's not the same warmth as when the energy from the sun gets to you. That's so nice. Nope. I thought we were going to get a squirrel, but I stopped too late. Sorry, it's jumped into the grass. Maybe we'll see it. I'll just drive by slowly here. Come on. Hop out of the grass, squirrel. Yeah, he's a sneaky fella. He's at the back there. You can just see him moving. Here he goes. Down into the grass again. Yeah, he's... Wait, jump to the next tree and then up he goes again. He's a little circus squirrel that we've got going up an apple leaf. That's my favorite tune. I love that. That brings back serious childhood. Oh, wait. What is this? Sorry, my brain is thinking. I'm thinking really hard now. Nah, I think I'm just... That's not right. I thought I saw a big serval track, but it wasn't. It was just a civet. I got excited. False alarm. No, I don't know. Now you see, I keep losing what I was looking at. Then I just see it every now and then. Nah. I'm making it up. Taylor, your eyes are seeing what they want to see. That is not a real track on the floor. You see, that's problematic when I start imagining things. What are those? Are those birds up on top of that? Is it a squirrel? Shamson, I'm going to go ahead and say a big yes to squirrels successfully partaking in seed dispersal. What? Oh no. Is it a bird? It's a lilac-breasted roller, that's what it is. Yeah, it is. So it's just somehow become very camouflaged and lacking luster at the moment. Anyways, so yes, Shamson, I would say that they do. Remember, they go around and they collect all the marula nuts, just for example, and then again they would do the same thing with jackalberries. They will also do the same thing with brown ivory fruit and all this type of things, and the seeds. So they take them away from where they found them, and I suppose squirrels are hoarders, aren't they? They like to stash all their different types of seed in preparation for the sort of the harsher times out here, and they stash them everywhere. They've got hidey holes all over the show. Once one compartment becomes full, I'm pretty certain that they'll go and stash and some others somewhere else. And because those seeds have then been moved far away, I mean, if one falls out, it could drop down into the ground. So yes, everything pretty much, most of the mammals, not just mammals, the animals out here contribute in some kind of seed dispersal or also pollination of plants. They're so important. And I think we forget that. We really do. What was that sound? That was a very mechanical call. Maybe it was a fork-tailed drongo of sorts. Oh, I was hoping we were going to get a squirrel. That would have been perfect, seeing as though we were talking about it. But nonetheless, it's still nice to see a lilac-breasted roller, and it's on a very high perch. That's an exceptionally tall tree. I don't know how well that is going to work if that bird is going to dive down into the grass to catch an insect. Anyways, let's pop you on over to James and see if he's any closer to Chitwa.
Yes, well, I've been moving, so I must therefore be closer to Chitwa than I was before. I have seen 2 steenbok along Cheetah Cut Line, which is our eastern boundary, both of which ran at a high speed away from us as fast as possible. And so I did not show them to you. I'm sorry. Let us have a little bit of a freewheel. It's nice to freewheel. As I always say, one day we're going to do this in electric vehicles, and then it really is going to make the most astonishing difference to how stealthily we can move through the bush. I'll be very interested to know how animals react to that. We did once have an electric vehicle at Londolozi, which lasted about, how long did it last? Probably lasted about 8 weeks before it burst into flames in the workshop, and the experiment was shelved. But I drove it a few times in the bush, and it was amazing. Now, that was more than 10 years ago. Luke, was that something about remembering to charge electric cars? Yes, I think you're right. With our current record of charging vehicles, we'd have a lot of no-shows, he says. We'd have to have some backups. But the one that Londolozi developed was basically, I mean, so 10 years ago, so technology's obviously moved a long way since then. It was a long wheelbase Land Rover, so a big one, sort of, I mean, this is a 90-inch. It was a 110, so it's 20 inches longer than this one, so much substantially longer load bin. The entire load bin was covered in batteries. But it was so nice to drive in complete silence through the reserve. It wasn't very nice to have to put out an electrical fire. That was the end of that experiment, like I say. You find that it's difficult to get guests to come back to your lodge if the car bursts into flames while they're sitting on it. They don't tend to like that patient, that sort of thing. So hopefully one day all of the vehicles in Sabi Sant will be electric. I'm sure they will be. Right, we're arriving at the waterhole. There appears to be about as much activity going on here as there is in much of the rest of the reserve. I say that, we did have a leopard. See if there's another one here. No, don't see any leopards just yet, but Senzor's the leopard spotter. Ah, look at that. What a surprise. There's some hippo. It's quite nice. No elephants. Some relative warmth. But there's definitely a cold front coming through here. I suspect it's been raining in Cape Town, which is great. Sneak up here. The little babies are out the water on the little island, which is quite fun. There we go. Very nice. Tinsel, let's look at the hippo. There are a couple of youngsters on this island as we arrive. Let's see if they come out. This pod of youngsters is great value normally. They enjoy playing, unlike the adults, which tend to lose their personalities, as we've discovered at Buffelshoek Dam, Scuba Steve. Come on, chaps. Do something interesting. Have a fight. Just a play fight, though. Don't hurt each other. Very silent again. A couple of chin spot Batisas. The breathing and sighing and wheezing of the hippos. There's not much else going on. Well, we're waiting apparently for this hippopotamus choreography to Be prepared properly. Let's go across to Taylor.
Yes, you're back with me now. What footprints are we following in the sand, hyenas? Okay, so we're down here now in the west. We just arrived at Impala Plains. Perfect timing. No cheetah, nothing yet. I also have not received any special intel that would, give us a tip-off that there's someone around here. But we're going to just have a little scratch about for Shadulu because she hasn't been seen again. Maybe she's on a kill. Maybe she's around. So I think we'll go up towards Aubrey's Road, maybe zigzag up and down there, check Gallagher Pan, see if there's any fresh leopard tracks. Haven't heard any alarm calls though, like sort of around camp. And typically when something goes towards Gallagher Pan, which would theoretically be the closest source of water, if she has made a kill within that vicinity, you normally hear the alarm calls from camp, and everyone in final control or someone lurking about camp would have, mentioned that, yes, there is an animal of sorts that is upsetting the birds. And then we go and look. So nothing so far, but that's not to say that anything has happened. Maybe there just weren't any birds around, and I don't know, big stories I'm telling at the moment. This is what I'm hoping. So we'll head that way and give it an old bash. Oh, I'm not sure what's happened down at Chitwa. I missed all of that, but let's go take a look.
Well, what was happening is that they got out of the water and were having a bit of a fight until, of course, Taylor linked, and then now they're not anymore. There we go. Hooray! Action stations. Great excitement. Let's see if it happens again now. These are just the youngsters having a bit of a frolic. They're definitely slightly less frolicsome than they were, say, 3 or 4 months ago. And that's because they're getting older, growing out of their games, They grow up so fast. Come on, hippos. Don't let us down. Keep talking to us, everybody. Hashtag SafariLive, of course. Chat stream on YouTube. I know it's quite quiet today, so any conversations you'd like to strike up, always welcome. Oh, an Egyptian goose. The ubiquitous Egyptian goose. Oh, now they're making fun again. Hang on. Senzo, come back. One of them's put its head out the water. They're sighing and wheezing and woozing. Now, I'm just looking at my updates here. Quite interestingly, it would seem that I don't know who's figured this out, but it's possible that male leopard we saw with the drone earlier today was Gijima, which makes complete sense. In other words, and Gijima, of course, is the Zulu word for run, and so the leopard that runs. Well, that's certainly the impression I had. Did anybody watch that? Anybody still watching see the thermal show? I'd love to know what you thought about it. Whether you thought it was entertaining, or you found, maybe, I don't know, maybe you found looking at those colours a bit boring. It would be very interesting to know what you thought of it. I thought the leopard hunt was fantastic. I thought our next one possibly less so, but that's why it would be in the form of an unscheduled broadcast normally. Mrs. Zero, you're wondering, if I was a hippopotamus for the day, what would I get up to? Well, it depends, really. In my current state, having got up at 4 a.m. to do the drone thing, I'd probably get into the water and go to sleep for a lengthy period. If I only had one day to be a hippopotamus, I think I'd spend as much time as I could floating, well, not floating, moving under the water. I think the thought of walking along the bottom of this water hole from one end to the other would be quite fun. I'd like to do that. I'd probably see if I could chase some crocodiles. That's very good. Taylor says that she would like to walk up to a vehicle and defecate on it. Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I can see the amusement in walking up to a vehicle and going and flapping your dung all over the place. It might be quite funny to watch some reactions from guests watching the hippos, so that might be quite an idea. Yeah, otherwise I think I'd probably just enjoy taking a load off. The hippo is not shy of taking a load off, doing nothing. Giraffe Girl, you watched the thermal thing and you said it was very interesting to see, and a lot of you agreeing. Yeah, I think it is interesting. I think it's very interesting indeed. I just hope that we're able to, well, I mean, I know we're going to be able to, but I think it's a real application is when we do find something like that leopard and try and bring a vehicle in, as opposed to flying around looking for, you know, just looking. Because I think most of what we find, well, just like when you're driving around, is going to be diurnal, which means we can't really view it from the vehicles. It was fascinating to find that leopard, though. Okay, we're going to carry on off the wall here, go around towards the Chitwa airstrip, see what's taking off. In the meantime, Stephen is, I don't know, he's walking, I think.
Yes, well, we spotted a beautiful owl and we couldn't find it, I'm afraid. We came out of the drainage and we got a very quick, let me try and get my phone to work, got a very quick visual of this. Hello, phone. This beautiful bird called the western barn owl. There we go. He flew out of the bushes, out of a tambuti tree, and then came and landed up in a massive jackalberry that we've been trying to see if we can find him again, but completely silent when they fly. The barn owl, their wings are enormous, so when they fly there's almost no sound given off. He flew right from above my head. You couldn't hear him at all. Do you want to listen to the call of the barn owl? This is quite eerie. Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves. Isn't that crazy? Okay. Enough. Hey, I've heard that a few times since I've been here. But it's such a freaky sound. Well, Ravinda, I didn't notice the pink eyelashes on the barn owl, but on the giant eagle owl, they've got pink eyes. Pink eyelids. But anyway, the barn owl flew out and we were surprised no birds followed it through the canopy. We thought they would. That's why we thought we could still find him or her up here, but it's completely covered. We can't see too much. But what is interesting is we found the branch of a jackalberry. Caitlin, the bush in general has got all sorts of smells when you walk through it. You can smell animals. You can smell their urine and their dung. There's certain floral plants that have got certain smells to them if you grab them in. But I think to everybody the bush has got a very interesting smell. In the summer it's nice and moist. In the winter it gets very dry and dusty. And you start picking up more scents and smells. But it takes time. If you come from the city, you're used to walking around like this so you don't smell anything. You come out here, you smell everything. It's just a plethora of smells. But one of the things I've been carrying around for a while to try and talk about, but we haven't had much, our signal's been giving us a hard time, I do apologise. It's the jackalberry tree. We come back to it again. The owl flew into it, so I'm meant to talk about it now. And here are some of the fruits on the jackalberry. It's fruity now, and the scientific name is Diospyros. It's a genus name, and that translated means pairs of the gods. I like that one a lot. So here's one of the fruits. I'm going to just discard that. Here's the fruit. It's very green and not ripe at all. And here are some of the fruits that were on the ground that African green pigeons and hornbills, barbets will be fighting over. There's one that's been cut open for the pear-like fruit that is inside. When you get them green like this, I leave them for a few days to ripen, and they go a little bit more sort of orange, and then you eat them. But right now, very bitter. Very taut, very bitter, and there's the, let me just get you the seed out there. Oh my word, that is so bitter. It's unbelievable. There we go, that's the inside. It's got no smell. It's very sticky. See how sticky that is? Very sticky. And you'll find birds like barbets, crested barbets, and black-collared barbets will actually defend entire trees against other bird species, saying, this is my patch. And the grey go-away birds come in. They come in, they eat on these, and the green pigeons. And what happens is that they eat the seed, the fruit inside, and then often drop some of them on the ground. And then this is a little bit more of a ripe seed over here that often the birds will actually ingest. And then when they defecate much further away, that will be deposited much further away from the tree than anticipated. These, unfortunately, were found underneath the tree, sometimes in the grass.
Is there one there? Yes, you can guess why we're making those high-pitched squeaky noises. Sorry for any of you that had your volume turned up quite loudly. That couldn't have been a very pleasant sound. Here we have one mongoose. There's lots of them here. I was just saying to Ferg, I cannot wait for the next month as the grass really, really dies down and we get a decent, clear view of these critters. But they're right here around the car. They're all just in the thicket. And because we haven't got any leopards or lions to follow, we thought, well, shall we just sit around and wait for them to relax around us and then hopefully come out? That's the idea behind it anyways. Any hornbills like to come and join us? And then what I did try and do is I jumped onto YouTube to see if I could find a mongoose call. Oh, that one's climbing up on the log now. And I pushed over greenthorn on that balanites tree. Hello. Gotcha. And try to find the call of a mongoose to see what it would do if they'd respond better to their own call, just out of interest, because I've never done that before. But do you think I could? No? Or the only video I could find on the internet about a dwarf mongoose was the mongoose hornbill incident we had a little while ago. It's just taken up most of YouTube if you put in dwarf mongoose. But that is very precious. Hello. You scent marking. See how it was rubbing its face on that little stump there? They constantly scent mark. Very sharp claws that you can see very easily. I suppose they need those sharp claws for digging. There's someone making a very sort of soft little kind of sound. But I don't know if it's another mongoose or if it's the crested francolin that's moving through. It could be either at this way. I don't think you can hear them chattering. It's a bit quiet. Ravinda, you're quite surprised as to the camouflage of these animals or how sort of well hidden they are. Yeah. And you wouldn't believe me if I said to you that there's probably about another 10 of them at least running around. I can't hear the shuffling through the grass just yet. But I can hear the little chattering. Yeah, they look this way when you make that sound. It's the most bizarre thing. I still think it would be really cool to try and find one colony and figure out where that they're living at that point and try and spend every single day with them. I mean, that would be ideal. How cool would that be? And then eventually get them, like they do with the meerkats, get them so relaxed that you can get out of your car and sort of sit around them and they carry on with their days. But that takes a lot of hard work and a lot of practice, and you've obviously got to make sure you do it every single day. But that would be a great little project. I think this mongoose is now on lookout, sitting there watching us. watching around, keeping an eye out for the rest of the members of this group of mongoose. Anyways, we'll hang around maybe for a little bit longer. We're enjoying the sun too. Off we go to James, who has got something much bigger than a mongoose.
Yes, it's much bigger than a mongoose, and I'm not sure who's looking after them. There seems to be a female behind. They're not looking around quite as effectively as the mongusta, I don't think. And they are waterbuck, aquabucks. Cobus ellipsiprimnus. 3 of them. 3 Cobus ellipsiprimni. And again, their colours make sense in the winter. This grey colour, where they live on the ecotone, and the transition between 2 vegetation types, is very effective for them just to kind of disappear and blend. You can see how the atmosphere has changed now. And if we go to the right of them, we have an impala, probably hanging with the aquabucks for the purposes of staying safe. Yeah, unsurprisingly, he's a ram. And they will often spend time, if they're on their own, they'll often spend time with other species. It just helps them to stay within the ambit of some other eyes for security. He's probably irritated all his friends. They don't like him anymore. And so he's been forced to seek the company of the smelly waterbucks. And they can be very smelly indeed. Hope, faith, love. You want to know what I studied and whether eco degrees, as you describe them, are popular in South Africa? I'm not sure that they're any more popular here than they are in other parts of the world. I did a very general biological degree. It was a 4-year degree in what they called wildlife science. Basically zoology and grassland science, or rangeland science were the 2 majors. And then I wrote a thesis at the end of it on the Zulu people living around a forest reserve in the sort of northeast coast, near the northeast coast of South Africa. Then I did a master's much later at Cape Town, and that was also on humans and conservation. It was in theory a master's in human development, so it had a whole lot of human development theory, and then I looked at the people surrounding the Sabi Sands and how they interacted with ecotourism. So that's what I did. You don't have to do a degree to become a guide. Some people don't. I know guides who've done computer science degrees. I know guides who've been cash and transit security guards at one stage of their lives. So, you really don't have to have any particular qualification to do what I do. And it's quite nice having a variation. Sorry, the sun is very bright in my eyes. It's quite nice having a variation of qualifications, because what it means is that, thank you, Senzel, that's very kind of, he's moved into the way of the sun. What it means is that you get a whole lot of different perspectives. You don't just get the same perspective. But ecological degrees, most of our major universities have them, and they are relatively popular, I suppose, but not nearly as popular, I'm sure, as in the rest of the world as the social sciences or the arts degrees or the beastly boring commerce degrees. Steve is apparently also very studious, and he'd like to tell you about what he learnt.
Well, thank you, Mr. James Hendry. I've tried to do some studies in my past. Always good for the brain. Do quite miss, actually. The academic side of things was quite fun. It was quite an interesting lifestyle. Had like a 9-to-5 job. Had weekends off. Went to all the parties I needed to. It's different now. We're busy for long periods at a time out here. But that's all good. A different way to do things. But we're down in the drainage. This is the Umawati drainage system, and such an important area for food and for forage late into the winter. This grass that's coming up, you've seen me talking a lot about grass over the last little while. This grass is kind of left at the moment, and this is the stuff that elephants and specifically buffalo are going to be targeting now as the season gets very, very dry. Out on the open plains where we see the wildebeest, you never really will find wildebeest coming down here. It's just not their habitat. But buffalo, most certainly, buffalo herds, those buffalo bulls that we spend a bit of time with, they'll hang out down here in this drainage, just moving from side to side, feeding on this really bulky grass over here. And there's a lot of nutrients still in it. This is known as the buffalo grass, the Panicum maximum. The seeds are all gone now, but it likes a semi-shade. It's very, very nutrient-rich. It's got a forage score of 10 out of 10, and you can tell that by the fact that it's got a huge amount of leaf. I mean, look how much leaf there is there. And when the buffalo come back, this is going to be their winter forage, but at the moment they're obviously in areas of more grazing. They're going to come back in their herds, moving through these areas, feeding as they go, defecating as they go, and looking for specifically these types of grasses. And it's running all the way through here, through the drainage system. Obviously, there's going to be different types of grasses along the way. For example, here's another one of the love grass species, slightly different in its approach. But if I have a look down here, this has got a forage score of probably about 5 out of 10, and that's purely because there's just no leaf. There's no leaf material. The leaf is being browsed, though. Here it is. That's the entirety of it there. Not a huge amount of leaf. Some leaf there, but nutrient value is medium and leaf is quite low. When you compare that to the buffalo grass that we just saw, have a look.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, I've just been knighted once again by Sebastian. Have a look at this leaf material here. So the nutrient value is very high, and look how much leaf material is there. I don't want to get bitten by anything. Enormous amount of forage and biomass. We call that biomass, and so that's why this grass has got such a high value, grazing value. It tastes good, and there's lots of it. So, an organic mecca of feeding for the buffalo. Okay, well, we're going to walk on through here. Keep our eyes peeled. We think those buffalo might be somewhere nearby, but I believe Taylor has found some grazing animals of her own.
We do. Now, they're very far away from us, as you can see. We're just sitting on the boundary of Buffelshoek, and we're looking at Sydney's dam, which is not quite a dam. It's more of a pan at the moment that's shriveling up. But there's a variety of animals around, from the kudu to the impala. There's probably a couple of birds around too. And there was one wildebeest at one point. But I don't know if they're drinking. I think they might be grazing on that short grass that's pushed through all the mud. Looks like it. So kudu are typically browsers. That's what you see them feeding on most of the time, is leaves and things like that. However, when there are new green shoots pushing through the ground, they don't say no to them. They definitely gobble up as much as they can. It's almost like a nice little kickstart for them, because there's not much green grass around at all during the winter seasons. So after not eating much of it, to have the first rains, you'll often see kudu out in the open grazing. But they're definitely grazing at the moment. Might also be some little forbs and things that are pushing up. So it might not all just be grass. I don't know what's powerful enough to push through all that sort of clay mud. Justin, there's so many different types of grasses that are very important. I mean, a very important one, of course, is Panicum maximum, the buffalo grass. The grazers love that. It's very, very good in sort of crude protein. Here's the wildebeest. Hello, you're very excited. I don't know what he's doing. He's not rolling. But the other grass that they also like is red grass. Tamida trianda is a great one. Waterbuck specifically enjoy that. So there's varieties. That is a vervet monkey sitting at the base of the tree. Is it no, I'm just checking. It is, yeah. A little vervet monkey there too. So there's lots of different animals also probably coming down to pick up on the grass. So there's a variety of different types. You might find that the animals prefer some at certain times of the year. But yeah, in my opinion, I think that Panicum maximum and the red grass, the Tamida trianda, are probably two of the most important species of grass for the grazers, just because of the amount of nutrition that they do hold. Wildebeest, you are very excited. This is obviously a bull. the way that he's flailing around like that. He's very excited. I don't know what's bothering him. If something's up his nose or if he's got something biting him, like his tail's switching. And must be something stinging him. Quickly get it off. My favorite animals will be sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they're my favorite animals, especially when they behave like this. I'm so sorry we're laughing at your misfortune. I had a horse that used to do that. His name was London Class, and he used to throw people off by doing that. It was the greatest thing. Everyone used to say, if he can ride London and he can buck and behave like a nightmare. Where are you going now, big boy? That's impressive, though. So it just goes to show you, for those of you that thought wildebeest weren't particularly agile and light on their feet, there we go. That will prove you wrong. Yes, please keep running where we can see. Something's bothering him. And I'll chase the birds away. Wait, look at that extended trot. Beautiful. Very nice. He's really showing off today. Perhaps he's got a thing for the female kudu in this group. Even though they are cows, my boy, I don't think they're going to find you particularly attractive. The bulls thereafter have got much longer horns than you could ever have. Where are you going now? Full of beans. Like I said, whether he's doing that to show off to everybody else around him, or in fact it is because somebody's biting his bottom like a bee or, you know, some kind of a fly, I have no idea. And that's the magic about wildebeest, is that they're so unpredictable with their behavior. Now he's standing up on the damn wall, scanning around. Oh, there's another wildebeest that's arrived on the scene. Oh, that's interesting. Anna Marie, the nutritional value won't just be one specific thing. So in terms of grasses, so it'll have to do with the crude protein. It'll have to do with the amount of phosphorus that is in the grass, or or whatever it may be. There's a variety of different minerals, and you might find that certain grasses have more of one thing. But it'll also have the main thing it'll have to do with is the amount of protein that it has in the grass, because that's essentially very important to these animals. I'm not sure exactly of what specific grass holds more of what, but I just know that the Panica maximum is very, very, very good in terms of protein. Oh, here comes our wildebeest again. He's gonna. That Impala's not hanging around. What are you doing now? Oh, it takes two to tango. Now they're both chasing one another. Love, hope, faith. He said I must just admit that I have got about 20 favorite animals. I like them all. Elephants are by far my favorite. I'm just thinking, I wonder if this is another bull that he's perhaps performing like this for. It's hard to see that one on the left. I think it might be two bulls, and maybe that will explain the behavior as well as being stung on the bottom. So I love wildebeest. I love hyenas too. I do. I like the mongoose and the hornbills and the orange-breasted bushshrikes, and sometimes I like the impala when they're bounding about on a hill with the sun setting behind them. Look at them, they really are showing off. Whee! This is now we need that circus music again. They're now rolling in unison. You know what, nature just amazes me. And if we look at us as humans, imagine two big strong men out on Long Street in Joburg or whatever start behaving like this, hey? What do you think? They started rolling around on the ground and jumping and chasing one another, standing there flexing.
Isn't that rugby?
That is rugby, you're quite correct. That is basically rugby. It's just be bizarre if we as humans behaved kind of like this. Thank goodness we're a bit more subtle in our attempts to impress one another. Well, sometimes, not always. We'll go away, birds also chirping. I think they might be having a laugh at the wildebeest, to be honest. Oh, settling down. Well, what an entertaining scene. I did not expect to see that this morning. Thank you, wildebeest, for putting a big smile on our faces. Now, anyways, luckily for all of you, you don't need any animals to entertain you when you are with James Henry.
I'm very entertaining, aren't I, Senzo? There's some grasses to the right-hand side where we're driving now. Here is an amazing tree. Senzo, can you see this amazing tree? Let me alight from the vehicle and talk about it. Oh, there is someone coming down the road. We are in their way. Naturally, there's been no one coming down this road the whole day, except for the one short period that I wanted to be talking about singing something. Oh, thank you. Goodbye. Good morning, how are you? Yes, Watty? We're looking at a tree. Yes. All right, we are live. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Sorry about that, everybody. Let me carry on with my speech about this tree. Let me entertain you with it. Have you got a lighter? You don't have a lighter? You sure? You've got no flame on you at all? You sure? Are you looking? Okay. This is the green thorn, the Balanites mogami. My entertaining voice was slightly ruined by having to talk to Dylan Leo Smith, of course, because I couldn't talk to him in my entertaining voice. That would have been silly. Anyway, here is the green thorn tree, and what we often don't see about the Balanites is why it's called a green thorn. But when they're little like this, you can see exactly why. It is, Senzo, because they have, yes, thorns, and they are green. Well done. They are green thorns. And what's very clever about this is that the entire plant is able to photosynthesize. That's the whole point of being green like this. And not only the leaves are able to photosynthesize, but the stems too are able to create food and value for the plant that will eventually become a large, fluted-stemmed, beautiful Balanites mogami tree. Thank you very much. Oh, we have a question. I'm ready for it. Samantha? Are we going to put a strap up for that one? It's up. Okay, so we can't avoid it. Samantha, when birds die of old age, do they just fall out of the sky? As far as I'm aware, well, very few organisms actually do die of old age here. I imagine there must be the odd bird that has been flying along and had a heart attack and so gone, sort of clutched its chest as it flew and then plummeted to the floor. I think very few birds that get to the stage of old age actually take off anymore. I suspect they'd probably starve before they lost the ability to fly. I suppose it's possible that a bird in history has been flying along very old and dropped dead of old age, but I think it's much more likely that if they're going to die of old age, they'll do that in their sleep. It's not something I've considered a great deal. But thank you. Thank you, Samantha. It brings up, I think, quite an interesting topic, because as I was talking about it... What? A giraffe. Thank you very much, Senzo. We'll go to the giraffe. As I was talking about that, I thought to myself, you know, human beings these days seldom seem to die of old age. We die a lot of lifestyle diseases. Are you happy now, Senzo? We die of lifestyle diseases, and we die of disease before we just die quietly in our sleep of old age. And of course that doesn't occur. The same stresses and strife that we do. They don't fill themselves with poisons like we do. And so they must die of old age, some of them. But normally what happens out here, Samantha, is that anything that gets too old becomes too decrepit to escape from predators and will normally get eaten. I'm just trying to think. I mean, I'm giving serious thought to your question. I'm just trying to think. There's a giraffe. I'm trying to think to myself, if a very old impala was to wake up in the morning, it would be able to sort of stagger about and eat a bit of grass. But a very old white-backed vulture, for example, yes, I mean, I guess there must be a point at which its muscles become too poor for it to maintain an ability to fly. So rather than die of old age while flying, much more likely its wings fail and it plummets to the ground and dies of a severe concussion. This is not a topic I ever thought I'd be talking about. But that's occurred many, many times on Safari Live. There was a giraffe. Giraffe, one of the few probably who do get to almost die of old age. They're able to avoid all but the biggest predators. And as long as they're in an area where the lions have enough else to eat, well, then the giraffe is safe. Many of you handing Samantha Question of the Day award. I would think Samantha's question is comfortably Question of the Day. Perhaps we could just put it up again on the screen for everybody to see. Luke, if you wouldn't mind strapping it again. There we are, go. There is the award. But, I mean, when I initially heard it, I thought, no, you can't be serious. But it is interesting. What does a really old bird do? Does it fly, or does it just decide that it's now too weak to fly? It can't walk, so does it just sit there and starve? The white-backed vulture being a great example. These things I do not know, cannot understand, cannot answer. Lucas, I missed that. Do you get anything? Linked, Steve. All right, let's go across to see if I think we're losing signal.
Yeah, well, we're having a look at some grasses again, just to maybe help everyone understand what we talk about nutrient quantity. And what is obvious by this grass here, it's clearly being grazed. You can see that. And the way that the grasses actually grow is they respond to being grazed. You can see how where it's being grazed, out comes another shoot. Look at that little green shoot popping out there. It's a constant process in grasses. They call it basal growth. Grasses grow from the base, from the bottom. So if you cut them at a certain level, they actually respond by reproducing and constantly growing back. Here's another species over here that's also been semi-grazed, quite low down, all around. Another one. And you can see the green shoots coming forward. And this is what the wildebeest are focusing on now, trying to get these little green bits that are popping out. Very tasty. Very. So, for us, we don't have the ability to digest grass. Herbivores do. The gut enzymes and the nutrients, or the abilities in their guts to do it. And they will choose grasses that have the right flavor, the right taste, that provide the nutrients. And each species is different, so they'll selectively point out what they can. A hippo and a rhino will just walk through and just eat everything. But what will be chosen here by the selective grazers is they'll physically look for the best grass, and when there's none of that available, they'll have to move on to the less palatable grasses. I mean, you can see just here, we've got these ones have all been grazed quite heavily, and that is buffalo grass by the seeds. Whereas if you look over here, this little grass that's growing here is one of our 3-orns, which is a pioneer species, and this has got an enormously low grazing value, and it's been left alone completely. It's almost got no leaf material. Look at the leaves, just those little spindly bits there. That is all it's got. So even if it had nutrients in it, doesn't provide enough leaf So the forage score would be very, very low. But its purpose is purely to colonize an area, provide ground cover, add some organic material in the form of seeds and leaves to the ground, some roots to the base, and then produce seeds and then die off and let other species come forward. It's that succession sort of phase. If your pioneer grasses are very tasty, well, they're just going to get ripped up. They're going to disappear before they even produce any seeds. So generally pioneer grasses don't taste that good. That good. Love, hope, faith, the flora around the world is persistent. It really is. I think just with regards to Africa, is because Africa, the animals evolved with humans, we've still got such a wild population of animals out here. Whereas the rest of the world, humans moved in from Africa a very long time ago and pretty much eliminated all the competition, all the animals around. And if you look around the world where there are wildest places, you'll find some animals, and there the flora is very in tune with the movement of the animals. You can jump back to Yellowstone National Park's example, and thank you, Christine, again for that lovely book, The Decade of the Wolf. Oh, we'll have to procession your caterpillars again. But how the herbivores in the Yellowstone National Park were completely destroying the vegetation growing in the ravines. And that changed all sorts of things. And they introduced the wolves, and within 10 years, because the wolves started hunting the herbivores, the deer and the elk, in the valleys, they started moving out of the valleys. And the plants, they started recovering. The birds moved in, the seeds moved in. And it's actually changed the flow of the river. So everything is dynamic, everything is diverse, and everything has a place in nature. We need to pay attention to that. And when a place is wild, you need to make sure you keep everything in place that is important there, even small little things like the caterpillars. NYC, I've never found any petrified wood around here that I can remember. No. But there we have a processionary caterpillar, a group of them. And James, I heard him say the other day that they accumulate in groups like that to make themselves look a lot bigger, which is quite interesting. It looks like quite a formidable mass, doesn't it? You want to poke your head in there and eat one of them. I think it's also to keep themselves nice and warm. But who knows, really? No one's ever given the caterpillars their own questionnaire to figure out exactly why they do what they do. Everything is assumptions, and I love how everyone's got different ideas and stories. That is what makes it so interesting, listening to everybody else. A very tasty morsel for a number of bird species, those who don't feed on grass. Okay, well, the grazers that we have around here, no doubt with a belly full of leaves and grass, they certainly need to drink.
And that's exactly what's happening now, is that the impalas, they seem to be a little bit on the jumpy side, which is quite normal, because you never know when there might be a crocodile lurking in the water, although this is a very small pan, because we're at Gallagher Pan, and it's actually fairly sort of clear, the water. This is one of the few pumped pans that we have, so there's constantly fresh water from the ground that is being sort of filled up in this pan. Everyone's very excited. Everyone's very thirsty. There's loads of impala coming down. And it's understandable why they want to hang around here. This is a great spot. And they've got water. They've got open areas, little patches to sort of graze in. And then if they feel like they're a little bit on the nervous side, or if it gets too hot, there's also a lot of shade around. You see that, how they got nervous there. And they became nervous because there are some Birchall starlings that flew from the ground. I can't see where they've gone, though, into a tree. And they were also alarming. I don't know what those Birchall starlings were saying, but it definitely rattled the impala. Look at them now. No, not comfortable. Romits, so in Yala, for example, not all the animals are water dependent. So in Yala, don't necessarily have to drink every single day. They will be getting a lot of their moisture from vegetation that they're feeding on. A lot of it comes also from dew and stuff on plants. Impala will drink every single day, though. So I suppose it depends on how much water is around. If the animals have to and this is what happens in the dry seasons, is why you see these masses of migrations. It's because all the animals are looking for the same thing. They're all looking for the best food, best quality of food, and then of course drinking water. Through the harsh times of a drought, you can't be picky about what water you drink. You just take whatever you can get. So at the moment, they're not having to travel too far. Sydney's dam was drying up. I'm not sure in Buffelshoek how many more dams are close by to that, but from where we are now, the next closest point to have a drink is either going to be Red Dam at Arathusa, or to come here to Gallagher Pan, or to Vuyatela Pan. So there's water slowly but surely drying up. They're going to have to start moving a little bit further and further away. So again, it depends. Here I think maybe the animals travel an average of maybe between 3 and 5 kilometers if they really had to go and look for water. I don't think that's particularly far. That's just around here. Whereas, you know, they're traveling thousands of kilometers elsewhere to find better food and grazing. So it's okay for them here. It's not too harsh. Whee, there's the squeak. Now, Danny, I'm not sure if you actually watched in 2015, but maybe somebody can share a clip with Danny and just to sort of show how dry and how terrible the conditions were out here. Because you've asked, would the animals really starve? There seems to always be food around. And you're quite right. There are leaves, there's grass. The moment the grass is not particularly palatable, it's not very nice. It's on its way out, if you will. Oh. There's a crested barbet just sitting in this buffalo thorn. I don't know how long it's going to hang around for, but we might as well have a look at it. So in 2015, 2016, it was really terrible. Danny, the buffalo were the thinnest I've ever seen them. Hippo's hips were showing, and a hippo is not a particularly small creature. Even with the elephant, you could start to see that the lack of vegetation was taking its toll. So yes, they don't necessarily starve to death, but they become so malnourished that they become very weakened, and predators will then take them down a lot easier. So yeah, it was tough. Like the way that I like to describe it, because it blows my mind, when I realized how bad the effects of the drought were, was watching the hippos eating out of rhino dung middens. That is all the grass that was available, was the partially digested dung from the rhinoceros. And that's what those hippos were just devouring. It was so sad to see. I mean, that's when you know. So yeah, it does get pretty hard out here. I mean, we're lucky because we did have a bit more rain than we had last year. This time last year, we didn't have half of this grass that's around. Even though it's yellow, we didn't have half of it. There was just big bare patches of sand. Most of the time you'd looked and you thought there was just a big road everywhere, because the ground looked very much like the dirt road that I'm driving on. It's hard, it's tough. You know, it's not as easy as, say, some areas where there seems to be a bit more rain or vegetation hangs around a bit more. Because it just depends on what's happening in that area at that specific time. But yeah, you will notice a difference, even with the impala, even with lots of the different animals. Wow, wonderful. Okie dokie, I'm just going to pass Rex and have a chat and get a quick update. I'm going to send you to James, who's on a morning bumble.
It's bumbling along. I've gone past the area where we had the leopard this morning on the thermal. Given up there, nothing going on. So now we're heading to... I must have hit those two stumps at least 600 times in my time here, and yet I hit them every time. We're going to Treehouse Waterhole now. There's some tracks of buffalo going along. Buffalo, well, that would be exciting. People would leap and jump for joy if we saw a buffalo, I think. You can see little bits of his dung on the road. There his tracks are. Oh, I wonder if he's not in the water. Waiting for the Unkuhuma pride to come down here and take away his misery for him. We're arriving now. Will he be there? Oh, oh, over the bump. I'd be quite excited to see a buffalo. It's been a long time since I saw one. Well, regardless, we'll stop and see what's here at Treehouse Waterhole. This has not been hugely productive of late. Ah, look at that, Senzo. Can you see what I see? Hey? Can you see what I see? Look at that. What? I never did. Nothing, Senzo, I'm joking. There's nothing there. It's all completely quiet, calm, bland. We do have some blacksmith lapwings. Oh, and a pied wagtail. Let's learn about the pied wagtail together, everyone. Go to the left of that lopwing, if you don't mind. Senzo. That's him. Pied wagtail. I'm quite interested in what the pied wagtail eats and where he nests. So we'll go to find out. Wag, search, tail, got him. Pied, black and white. Monogamous, the cup nest is often placed over water, also on a variety of man-made structures, parasitized by red-chested and Diderik's cuckoos. Now that's very interesting, because a red-chested cuckoo is a big bird. A red-chested cuckoo is probably about, I'd say must be about a foot long. A Diderik's cuckoo is tiny. It's about the size of the pied wagtail without the tail. And so how they both manage to lay eggs inside the nest of the pied wagtail is something of a mystery. That's very interesting indeed. Let's go to their diet. Foraging and food. Forages singly on pairs, small flocks. Prey. Snatch insect. Hawks invertebrates aerially, occasionally hovering briefly to snatch prey from the water surface or spiderweb. Okay, so insects largely. Siberia's Yumi, you call them the wiggle-bottom bird. I think it's a very good way of describing them. The wiggle-bottom birds. They do normally wag their tails. Oh, Indigo Girl, you say you call them the bobbling booties. No, they also eat grasshoppers, dragonflies, butterflies, caterpillars, ants, termites, small crabs, worms, tadpoles, grass seeds, sometimes bone meal, and household scraps. Occasionally take small fish. So if you have any household scraps that you're not going to eat, you know the wagtail would appreciate them. Right, we're going to turn for home now, with just 7 minutes left until we fill our faces with delicious breakfast. In the meantime, Stifofo has not given up. He is still searching the ground for evidence.
Yes, well, James, hopefully you'll come past Twin Dams Road and pick us up on the way, because we've been wanting to show this track, so we might be a little bit late for breakfast if you don't collect us. But this is beautiful track. This little foot here. There's the toes, and you can see the nails dragging through. There's the left side and the right side. See how the toes drag through the sand? And they drag, whoops, whoops. This is indeed the track of a bushveld rain frog. Very, very cool to see. And it's very surprising to see them out this time of year. I don't know what's going on. He might be quite confused. But we had a track earlier of something we weren't quite sure of. And I was thinking toad or frog by the size and the shape. But just the time of year seems very strange. But finding now this guaranteed bushveld rain frog track, I'm quite certain that that other track that we saw earlier, we didn't show you because I was quite confused about it, is a toad, possibly. But anyway, there we go. And there's a little guy. He's probably about this big and as fat, like that. And they are perpetually grumpy, with a big grumpy frown on their face. And okay. Sorry, Luke, you're talking to me in my ear there, not James. Oh, up we get. We're going to continue on because someone said the word breakfast. So, indeed, nice to see the bushveld range frog, really big, grumpy smile, Niconico wrap his arms around the lady to mate, so they actually stick themselves with something called adhesion. They actually glue themselves to the back of the female so as to fertilize the eggs and just hold on. And it's quite funny because one of the calls you talk about in frog calls is called a release call, because if a male frog grabs another male frog by mistake, sometimes he won't let go. He won't let go until he's fertilized eggs. And the chances of a male fertilizing eggs from another male not going to happen. So you get distress calls, you get obviously mating and chorus type calls, and you also get that let me go call, which happens quickly because once the frog latches on, he latches on. But in the case of the bushveld rain frog, this is looking. There's a snake moving across here, maybe looking for that bushveld rain frog. Well, Taylor's got some animals that would shout very loudly if they saw this snake. I think they're up in a tree.
They would be going. That's me teasing the monkeys. Shouldn't tease the animals, but they come in and they annoy me all the time and run on the roofs. There's Gimpy. Sorry, Ferg. That one running in the grass. I'm pretty sure it just was not putting its one foot down. That one that... Where you going? Come back. No, it looks like it's running. Ah. Well, this is a troop of monkeys that does hang around camp. I'm trying to find our favorite, who is called Magimpi. And Magimpi is this monkey that has got a very sore hand. You don't know what's happened to it, but it doesn't seem to be able to use it. But it's fine. The last time we had them out here on the open plains behind camp, it was leaping from tree to tree with absolute ease. I don't know where it is though, but it's definitely the same troop. It's not that. I don't think it's that one. But nice that you're hopping from branch to branch. It's so agile, nimble in the trees, eh? And I think that's what's so incredible about things like leopards, for example, and monkeys, and anything that you sort of spend some time up in the trees. It always amazes me how their planning works, you know. When we see leopards standing at the base of a tree looking up, staring at it before it does make a leap up into the tree. You know, so it's obviously figuring out where it's going to go, how high it needs to jump, which branch it's going to put its foot on next. I'm pretty sure monkeys do the same thing. And for me, in terms of exercise, that's the most exciting thing. And it's why I like going on those safari parkour adventures, is because it's very stimulating experience. Not only are you being active and you're running around and you're obviously getting fit, but your mind is working. Whereas I find if I run on an airstrip in a straight line, I'm so bored, and then I don't actually want to be out there. But if I can run and have to figure out on the go where to place my foot next, because it could mean that I could fall or slip, that is so exciting. That really gets the adrenaline pumping, which is such a nice thing. And that's what these monkeys and these leopards and, like I said, the baboons are all doing, is they're constantly not just keeping fit as they go along, but they're constantly keeping their mind stimulated, and then also looking out for potential threats. It's tough. It must be very tiring. I'd be exhausted if I was a wild animal living out here. Fravinda, so you've never seen a monkey running around on the ground? This is your first time? Well, there we go. A day full of firsts. Remember, I got to see the white-throated robin chat for the first time in my entire life. Woohoo! Never seen that bird before. And Ravinda got to see the monkey, the vivid monkey, running away too. So I think all in all, it's been a fairly good day, especially we got to see some spots too. Not for very long, but at least we know Tlalamba is fine and she's doing well. So I bet that makes you happy. Now the sun is so bright now, I can't see anything. I don't know what it is. If it's a presenter light of the sun, or just that I need to maybe go to bed. It'll be one of the many options that I just mentioned to you. But what a beautiful day it has been, filled, like I said, with lots of things, and hopefully they'll all be around this afternoon for the Sunset Safari.